Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're going to have a great show today. Caitlin Clark's crossover, the first one of the year, first one ever. I can see Rudy looks like he's already ready. I don't know if it's with the TV there. So we're starting at 6 o'clock, and I'm glad that you guys all joined us. And I'll wait for kind of everybody. There we got Ack from Ack Nation TV. We got Rudy. Rudy, can you hear me, Rudy? Rudy from Come On Now podcast is here, and of course, Adrian Ross from the Adrian Ross Show.
I thought we were starting at 6.
We are starting at 6. I saw you there, so I figured I went on today because that's the first time I want to make sure I do everything right and get everything ready. You can come back at 6. I saw you in the background, so I invited you in.
Oh, okay.
And we're just gonna let's see. So I told people that Adrian Ross is going to be here, who I think you were on her show once. Is that correct?
A couple times, yeah.
Couple times, okay.
Yeah.
Do you know Ack from Ack Nation TV?
I don't know him personally. I know I've seen him put some of my stuff on some of his videos, which is cool.
Okay. All right. Did you play basketball or at all?
I mean, I played in high school, but I coached travel basketball for 7 years.
Okay.
Covered basketball for quite some time. Covered for the University of Miami, covered Florida State when I was at Florida State.
Cool. Okay.
Covered FIU when I was at FIU. So yeah, I've covered high school. I covered high school basketball for like 15 plus years. Covered University of Miami for over 10. So yeah, I have a lot of basketball coverage experience and then coaching on top of that.
Cool. All right. Mm-hmm. So Rob's not here tonight. He's here like half the time on Monday nights. It may change. He might be here all the time. He was he's the co-host. Rob and I went to high school together. He was on he was a year ahead of me. He was my brother's friend actually, and he was on the basketball team. And he played basketball in college. He was also a ref, and he was also a coach for 13 years.
Oh wow!
He knows a lot about basketball. I played 8th grade basketball when I was like 4'8" at the time, and then I wrestled and played ultimate frisbee. So I do not have that type of background in basketball, but I've been watching it for over 55 years, and it's my favorite sport after football. Football is actually my favorite sport. And I got started in this because Caitlin Clark is, to me, the most exciting athlete since Michael Jordan.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing. No question about it.
So that's my background. I didn't know your background.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in sports. I mean, I played sports my entire life. I coached football, coached basketball. I mean, I love my favorite sport is baseball, actually.
Okay, yeah.
My favorite team sport is baseball, and
ESPN lost. I'll take out that banner since I know it's okay. The banner's not blocking you. How you doing, Ack? Can
you hear me? Man? How you guys doing? How are you guys doing?
All right. Good. Where are your daughters? I was expecting your daughters.
Nah, my daughter. I got one daughter, one son, but they'll be home in a little bit. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing well. Wonderful. I'm excited about this show. I just came up with this idea about like 2 weeks ago. I said, well, I always like the sports reporters, and I watched it every week for 30 years. And then they suddenly canceled it.
Remember that show? I used to watch it all the time.
No explanation for why they canceled it. You can look on the internet. You won't get an explanation. And then they started it up. It was like 7 years ago. It was on every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. I used to tape it when it wasn't on. And I liked the format that they had. It was pretty cool. And then
Mike Lupica. They had Mike Lupica on there.
Mike Lupica, people thought was annoying, but he had good opinions.
Yeah, that was a good show. That was all we had, though. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all the content we got now. It was as far as debate shows, that was it.
Tony Kornheiser was on the pilot show, and I think who's the guy from Boston? What's his name again? And Mike Lupica, I think, was on the pilot show, and Paul Ryan. Is that his name? Ryan.
I know. Yeah, Paul Ryan.
Right. Is that Paul Ryan?
Yeah, Boston Globe. Yeah, Boston.
Okay. Yeah. I think those were the three in the first show. So Tony Kornheiser branched off into Pardon the Interruption, And that's how, pardon the interruption, Michael Wilbon was on the show occasionally too. And they knew each other because they're from the Washington, D.C. area as sports writers.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They started a similar show, but it was just one-on-one type of thing. And that's how it became so popular, was because they had a very concise thing. I'm not going to be as concise as them. They have 20 minutes.
Are we live? We're live right now?
We're live right now. And I told, Adrian to come in between 5:55 and 6. So where'd he go? We're live.
Hold on, I had to hear something at my door, but yeah. So we're live right now. Okay.
We're live. Yeah, right. I said Adrian.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Checking anytime between 5:55 and 6. Show starts.
Yeah, man. Okay, I didn't know. Okay,
unless she has trouble getting in, she should be here any second.
Yeah, man. I seen one of your videos, Rudy, a long time ago.
I know. I saw you post. You posted my stuff, my comments off of Twitter.
That's when I first got your got on your. The first video I seen of yours was when you was talking about the attendance for Juju Watkins games. It was a while ago. It's like maybe months ago.
Empty
buildings. I'm going to try.
No, not that one. Not that one.
Right now,
another one. It was another one where you were talking when you went through the numbers for the attendance at all the games. I think, like all her games about how she wasn't. Yeah, man, that was a good video, man. Yeah, I've been watching your videos a lot lately, man. I ain't gonna lie,
Thank
man.
you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Your numbers growing too, man. I used to get like 5 views, man. Now you creeping up there with the big boys, man.
I'm trying. I mean, that's the goal, is to get it up there. Yeah. I still wonder why the algorithms don't seem to work sometimes in my favor.
I wonder that too.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at it, and it goes like this, and it goes like this, and all of a sudden just does this, and like, well, what happened? We're watching it, but
hi, how are you?
Okay,
good. Can you hear us?
I do. I hear you well.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome.
I'm excited about this show. Welcome to all our new listeners. If you weren't part of the channel, maybe you came in to follow one of these 3 guests here today. And today's show is going to be called Caitlin Clark's Crossover. In fact, it'll be called that every week. And you're listening to Mark and Rob's Sports Showdown. And the reason it was called Crossover is that Ken Smith, who does that X thing, he came up with the name, and he said you can cross over to other channels to assist you on the hottest takes on Caitlin and the Fever. So I thought that was a clever name. I want to welcome everybody, especially our 3 esteemed panelists. And today we're going to do a bunch of questions. And you can take your time answering the questions because we have an hour. The sports reporter was only 20 minutes because they had commercials. So I want to thank you for making room in your busy schedule to help us out. If you're new to the channel, Rob and I cover football and basketball, but mostly Caitlin Clark because that's what our listeners want to hear about. And Rob's working tonight, but he's here about half the time. He's a former basketball player, coach, and referee. Tonight's format is going to be very similar to the ESPN sports reporters, which I just told everybody I watched for a long time, and they brought it back recently, so that's how I came up with the idea. And the discussion will be centered around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA 80% of the time, and we'll also talk about women's basketball and the NBA and the NFL if something huge in the news or big event goes on. And the panelists will be rotating to give listeners a variety of opinions, so if you don't see one back the next week, it's not because they didn't give good answers or that people didn't like them. It just means it wasn't their week. It's going to be... Most panelists will be, I'm assuming it's like every other week for most people because we have like 5 people right now. All right. Next week is going to be, let's see if I get his name right, Pope B. Frank, who I think was on Adrian's show one time at least. And he'll be here next week. So I want to welcome the first panelist is the very popular Adrian Ross of the Adrian Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. She both played and coached basketball and stopped following the NBA until the excitement of Caitlin Clark dragged her back in. And then our next panelist is Woody from Come On Now, the podcast.
Rudy.
What'd I say?
Woody?
Oh, I thought I said Rudy.
My name is across the screen.
I have an accent. I'm from Rochester, New York.
Rochester.
The podcast, anyways, come on now. The podcast known for Rudy's rants with facts over feelings. I have no idea why he started his channel. I think it's just because he likes to rant a lot. And last but not least is Ak from Ak Nation TV, another very popular broadcaster known for his strong opinions, laughing at his own jokes, and calling into our live show on Monday nights and giving us a hard time. I think he started his channel because he needed a break from his cute little daughters who sometimes come in to sit on his lap when he's recording. So anyways, if I ask you a question about ranking, and you can just assume the person's healthy for the whole season or for most of the career, that's that type of question. And if anybody in the audience wants to ask a question, put it in the threads and we'll try to get to the best one at the end if we have time. Most of my questions will be short, but a couple questions are a little long because I felt the background information was important to both the panelists and the listeners. So bear with me on those questions. And okay, so we'll get to the good stuff, and I'll have to get my questions ready. I've got about 300 questions. We probably won't get to all of them, but I did try to put a variety of questions because some people like I like ratings and rankings and stuff like that. Some of you like drama with the culture and the sports connecting, and some people like predictions and theoretical things. So I try to put a variety of questions together for you, and if you can give me feedback afterwards, I'm very open to trying to make the show better. So I get to the first question here. Let me pull up my thing here. Oops, sorry about that. All right. So my first question is, who is the most annoying woman in sports? And why is it A'ja Wilson? Now, obviously, that wasn't a serious question, but feel free to touch on it when you answer the question. The question is, the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, talked about the importance of rivalries in sports, while Mick Talks Hoops has made 33 videos arguing that the league has an A'ja Wilson problem because she is very unlikable, that she has to win every
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing. There's a feedback.
Oh, really? Uh-oh.
Over here, I'm not.
There's a feedback?
Yeah, I hear a delayed feedback.
Oh, it hasn't been a delay. It hasn't been a problem before. Maybe it's because there's 4 people. Sorry. There's a delay right now? For anybody else has a delay?
Okay. I'm sorry. All right. I got it set. That was my fault. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, my first time I went live, I had a delay. And they said don't have the same computer with the tab. Or something.
I had something going on. Yeah, I didn't realize it was me. I apologize for interrupting you.
Okay. What did you hear? Did you hear anything?
No.
What's the question?
The question is, does the league have an A'ja Wilson problem? Number one. And number two, is her irrational dislike of Caitlin Clark good for the league since it creates a natural rivalry between them? And since I'm old school, I'm going to start with ladies first, if that's okay, for the first question. And Adrian, go for it.
Okay, first of all, Mark, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And
you're welcome.
Hello to Rudy and Ak Nation. It's cool to hang out with you guys. So I appreciate that.
Salute.
Yes, sir. Okay, so does the league, I'll start with the first question. Does the league have an A'ja Wilson problem? Well, she's not very likable to lots of people who watch her. So if that's a problem, then I would say, yes, she has a problem, because I think she kind of turns people off. Some people, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I feel like the league and beyond the league, the media feel that they owe her something. And so now everybody seems to be on this let's make and keep A'ja Wilson happy wagon. And nobody likes when people are forced upon them. So if you want to call that a problem, I guess that would be a problem. But you also talked about drama. I think the WNBA has gotten lots of attention because of the drama. And A'ja Wilson, and some of the comments she has made, particularly about privilege, she wants to tell everybody how privileged they are. That kind of drama can sometimes work in your favor. So maybe it's a mix of both.
I think.
Go. I just went one part. The other part. Do you think that the rivalries helps with Caitlin Clark, and the fact that she dislikes Caitlin Clark? Do you think that helps in terms of causing a rivalry and increasing popularity in the league?
People who love drama. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know that is it a rivalry? I mean, I wouldn't even give it that much that much clout. I'm not so sure there's a rivalry between A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark, but she obviously has some things to say about Caitlin. And for some people, listen, a lot of people out there spouting off on social media, they're not dialed into the games. They're in for the drama. They're in for the race baiting. And so whether it's Angel, whether it's A'ja, same thing. So I guess it has benefited in some regards, and in other regards, it's turned some people away who don't really care for the drama.
Okay. AK, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
when I think of A'ja Wilson, I think of like somebody that, you know, is that friend, that person that said, I'm sure her friends and teammates cringe when she speaks. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure the people close to her don't like the things she says. I mean, even though they're woke, like when you watch those press conferences with her sitting next to other players and she's crying and she's like snot bubbles coming out her nose and she's talking about how great she is and how much she has to play and how much she has to do and all this stuff. And I've never seen one public statement from her other than her high school commitment speech when she committed to South Carolina, where I actually walked away liking her. So I gotta think that it's not just us, but people tolerate her because she's the queen bee and she's the top chick in the WNBA. And I like what you said about that, Adrian, because I never really looked at it like that, because it is like she's owed something. It is like she has the as the black woman who was the best player before Caitlin, and now all this attention is on the league. Yep. It is kind of like paying back. It's like, okay, we're going to give her everything as if the league was this hot and this popping since she got in it. So we're going to repay her back to 2018 with all the hype she didn't get because the league wasn't popping in 2019, 2020, 2021. We're going to give her all that back, and we're going to do it all in like 1 year. So we stuff it down everybody's throat. So it's like, yeah, that might be what they're actually. Even though I've noticed that they do that and I've talked about it, that might actually be the psychology behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Rudy, you want to jump in?
I don't think the league has an A'ja Wilson problem. I think the league is the problem, and the people that enable it are the problem. A'ja Wilson can cry all she wants, and she will cry about everything because she does feel like she's owed something. What are you owed? What do you owe? You actually owe the NBA a lot because you wouldn't exist in this country as a basketball player if it wasn't for the NBA owners that kept this dying league alive for 28 years before. And I mean, even last year, the league still lost $50 million. Like, who pays that bill? So when they cry about revenue and cry about sharing, well, you don't generate anything. It's a loss. I think the problem is when these organizations on the outside pander to her and they bend over and take it in the you-know-what just to make her happy. So she, people can cry out there. There's plenty of crybaby players in the league, but they take it, they for some reason jump when she cries now. Every time she opens her mouth, she embarrasses herself. I mean, from the Kelsey Plum stuff, which is probably more than likely why Kelsey Plum bailed, because she was embarrassed by that publicly. But yeah, I think the problem are these who Sports Illustrated, the voter of one that picked her as a Sports Illustrated Woman Basketball Player of the Year. One voter. You know,
let me ask you this though.
Nike with that ridiculous, otherwise in my opinion, a hideous shoe with a bra strap. I heard that you say that. A bra strap for a logo.
Yeah, but do you think that everybody left? Because remember, everybody left. You said Kelsey Plum left because of that. Yeah, but everybody left. Do you agree with me that even though we cringe with what she says, they also got to be cringing by the things she says?
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sure they're absolutely cringing on it. That's why all the stuff that that comes from her and the different people that hate Caitlin Clark. Well, they don't, because look who's tried to join forces with her. People that you never thought in your wildest dreams in September. Like, did any one of us think that Dewana Bonner would be on the Indiana Fever this year? Realistically, did any one of us think that no matter what you think of Sydney Colson as a basketball player, did anyone think that she'd be on the Indiana Fever this year? How about, for Christ's sakes, Brianna Turner? No. But they all know. That's why I don't believe any of the stuff that comes out of these women's mouths. It's all fake. It's all for a cause. None of it's real. And that's why I can't take any of them seriously. And A'ja Wilson, yeah, I think these organizations bending over and, that whole Nike thing was a joke. You know about it for 2 years. You let this woman get slandered by your fans for the whole season, and you knew you had a shoe coming out. There's no NDA there that stops you from saying, well, I have a shoe. It stops you from saying what it looks like, but I have a shoe. Everyone else tells you when they have a shoe. A'ja signs the special.
I think
leave the 22-year-old alone. She could have said, hey, man, leave this 22-year-old alone with all this racial nonsense. She's 22 years old. I'm a veteran in the league. There's no need for you to attack her like this. I'm calling the dogs off. She could have said something like that.
Completely.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know that I agree that everyone is cringing, because I think that we live in a time where it seems that if A'ja Wilson or other people say I'm privileged, then that must mean I'm privileged. And everyone seems to want to bend over backwards out of some sense of guilt for being who they are. And I see that a lot. So I'd like to think that they're all cringing and going, get out of here with that mess. But I'm not so sure. I think, unfortunately,
what about her delivery? You think, I get what you saying, that they agree with what she said, but her delivery is so bad.
Yeah, and what she's saying is bad, and she says it. But notice how Kelsey Plum just kind of was like, okay. Was she just speechless because she's like, I can't believe she just sat up here and told me that I'm privileged? Or is it sort of like, thank you for letting me know my place? Because there's a whole lot of that going on right now out of some sense of guilt or whatever. And I don't know. I hope people push back, but I'm not so sure we're living in a time where people push back. People are sort of like, okay, I guess I am.
They push back by leaving, though. They push back by leaving.
Okay, well, there's that.
I think our fans are pushing back against her because they find her annoying.
I think Kelsey Plum had a few drinks that night and was a little like, huh? But at the same time, she put that in her safety deposit box and remembered it. I don't think she had that. She can't win with a response, really.
That's true.
To me, she can't win.
Anything, she'll be racist. Yeah,
anything she says is now she's the racist.
But listen, we can't win either, but we do what we do. So, and we understand that there's going to be pushback. We understand when we put something up, what's going to be said, but we still push back. So
we don't have nothing to lose, though. We independent. We don't work for ESPN. We don't work for nothing. We independent.
That's true. We don't have to live with them. We don't have to play with them.
If I said this if I said some of the things I say in my video on Sports Center, it wouldn't even have to be on First Take or any of these shows. It wouldn't even be the producer or the executive producer of the show that would give me. The second I said it on the show, they would all roundly talk me down, and I would, you know what I'm saying? They would all, you wouldn't even get away from the show, out of the segment, without being told how terrible a person you are.
I'm going to give you my quick answer, then we'll go on to another question. I think there's an A'ja Wilson problem, and I think the rivalry is good for the league. And I'm going to give you an example why, and I think the rivalry actually exists. And it existed last year. Caitlin Clark had a lot of momentum, and people were talking about her for the MVP. And then they had their game. I guess it was the second game against the Aces. And in that game, Aliyah Boston had 6 fouls, and A'ja Wilson had 0. And they knew, the refs knew, and everybody knew that if Caitlin Clark had an unbelievable game, and they swept them in those 2 games, because they were playing 2 games in a week or whatever it was, Caitlin Clark was going to have a lot of momentum for the MVP award. And they want, not only did they want her to win before the season started, they wanted her to be unanimous. And those refs screwed over Aliyah Boston that particular day. They wanted to make sure they won that game, and they stopped the momentum. And I think that's started a rivalry because A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league, but Caitlin Clark will be the best player in the league. So the two of them will have a great rivalry for the next 5 years until A'ja Wilson starts to go downhill for age.
Caitlin's already better.
Pardon me?
Caitlin's already better.
We can get to that in another question.
I think the rivalry started like we talked about earlier before the season started and with the whole Nike thing. But I think Caitlin is not only rivals with A'ja, she's rivals with everybody, all the black chicks. Yeah, like because it's like she's rivals. If she's rivals with Angel Reese, she's if some black chick, let's just say Rakia comes out next year and she sets the world on fire in the first 10 games. Let's say she averaged 23 points a game in the first game. It's going to be Rakia is better than Caitlin. So whoever a black chick is playing the best is better than Caitlin. You know what I'm saying? That's how I think.
I was joking when I said he laughs at his own jokes. Okay, yeah. So anyways, we're going to talk about what Rudy said. We'll talk about that next because here are hopefully I did this right. Can you all see that? This is the MVP odds. A'ja Wilson's 175, 240, Caitlin Clark, 650 for Nafisa, Brianna Stewart, 750, Sabrina Ionescu, and Alyssa Thomas. And one of them had Brianna Stewart above Nafisa Collar, but these three all have the same order. So let's just assume this is the order. This is the latest odds I could find. So my question is, and I'll start with Rudy. Do you agree with these odds?
Hell no.
Why not? Okay.
Because the only reason that you would put A'ja Wilson ahead is that you have the puppets that will, are of the old guard that want to vote for her, these intern level journalists that they have in the WNBA, because that's what they all are. You don't have real professional outside of the woman for the USA Today, whatever, Christine Brennan. The rest of these, for the most part, are children reporting, and they're not actual reporters. Half of them don't have college degrees in journalism, which to me off the bat discredits you as a journalist. I actually have a degree in journalism, so it bugs me when people refer to themselves as journalists. It's a personal thing, actually. It'd be like a lawyer saying I'm a lawyer, and then someone says, "Oh, I'm a lawyer because I read a law book." Like, no, you're not.
I'm a lawyer.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You can't tell. You can't tell he's a lawyer by that.
Are you really?
I am a criminal defense lawyer. I do legal recruiting. And I do this channel. I have 3 jobs.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, but you're a lawyer. So imagine if someone that just said I read a law book said I'm a lawyer. Like, that's a joke.
No, I know.
And it's offensive. So they have all these clowns that are on TV who, they vote a certain way. Now, if you're basing it on actual skills, it's not even close. Caitlin Clark is so much more skilled than A'ja Wilson. It's not even close. Like if you go down every skill set, can A'ja Wilson play better defense? Sure. Can she post better?
You just said in every category. And now you said
no. I'm saying you go to every category skill set. There might be 2 or 3 for which A'ja Wilson is better because she's bigger. But every actual ball handling, passing, shooting, mid-range, attacking the rim, free throw shooting.
Wait. Better than A'ja Wilson in the mid? She's not better than A'ja in the mid-range.
Oh, she'll crush her. A'ja Wilson's not making 60% of her jump shots from 15 feet. So yeah,
Caitlin doesn't shoot jump shots.
Well, A'ja Wilson's not even being guarded at the 15, 16-foot line. She's not getting double teamed either on the perimeter.
So
I think A'ja. Well, let me
give me your odds. Give me your odds.
And the fact that Brianna Stewart's even on that list, after I've watched what I've watched the last 6 weeks,
horrible. She's
one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen. Like for the pub and clout she gets, she is utter trash. Like, she's horrendously bad.
On 3-on-3. I haven't watched any 3-on-3, so I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah,
she's horrible.
She got skunked by a rookie who's 6'3". I mean, in a one-on-one. Skill-wise, we've seen players in this unrivaled thing get completely exposed. Sabrina Ionescu is another one who's been exposed. But no, I think Caitlin Clark is a much better player. If she does what she's supposed to do, what I expect her to do, which is 25-12, she'll win that MVP award in a landslide.
Okay, so
what? I'm gonna let Adrian go, but I got something to say about what he got to say.
Who's second and third, for instance, really quickly? Who's second and third?
I mean, they'll give A'ja Wilson because she's gonna take 20 shots a game. A'ja Wilson will be number 2 because they'll give it unless they start being realistic and watching Nafisa Collier play. because Nafisa Collier is more skilled than Asia Wilson.
Okay.
And it's not close.
All right.
It's not. The only player that I would put on the Caitlin Clark skill level is Nafisa Collier.
All right. AK, what do you think? What's your order?
Oh, you're talking to, okay.
Go ahead. Now, go ahead.
Adrian, doesn't matter.
Let it go.
When you talk odds and stuff, that's right over my head. I don't.
No, not even odds. Just like what try to predict what place you think the MVP awards are going to be next year at the end of the year. Don't worry about the odds.
I'm going to agree with Rudy in the sense that I think Nafisa Collier is a phenomenal basketball player who doesn't get the shine, if you will, that she deserves. Caitlin, I think if she had, I think that she's got a lot working against her. Asia Wilson is a great basketball player, sure. I think Caitlin Clark could be number one, but I don't know if she would get that vote. I think she has to be far and away ahead of Asia Wilson for her to get the votes she needs.
I've heard listeners say that, and I'm going to disagree with you on that. Just one point for a second. If you look at last year's voting, she came fourth in the MVP voting, and I think that's about where she deserved. And so I think there was a couple votes that were biased against her, but I don't think there was a high enough percentage to make a difference unless the race was super close. Then I think she would lose unfairly. But if she was definitely better, I don't think that's anything to worry about based on last year's vote.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I think. I think she's got to be head and shoulders better than Asia with the climate we're living in for her to get the vote to be to be the top, MVP. And I also think that we have to consider that her team is rather stacked. And I don't know what those numbers are going to look like for Caitlin Clark. I think everybody's going to be doing a whole lot of sacrificing. Nation, you talk about this when you talk about Dawn Staley. You talk about certain players who on other teams would really shine and would get all kinds of accolades, but because of the system, they don't. So I don't know. I don't know that I can use last year to gauge where things are going to be this year. I got to see how things go. I know last year they crowned Asia Wilson before she'd ever played a game, but I don't know. I'm going to reserve my thought for, I got to see him play.
Okay.
I just got to push back against what Rudy said, man. 25 points, no way in hell.
Well, but it's one of my questions. That's one of my questions. Of what numbers you think she's going to have?
No way in hell. No way in hell she gets 25 points a game with this team.
Why not?
With that team.
Why not?
Let me tell you. Okay. Kelsey Mitchell. That's one reason. I don't got to say no more. Kelsey Mitchell. Then you got the other players. You got to also understand these other players, like Adrian said, they're being told to sacrifice. They're told to buy in. It's about Aliyah. It's about our big three, our organic big three, all the players we drafted. And those are our big three, and you guys are just here to compliment. Here's the problem, though. The intoxication of this spotlight that's going to be on them. They have never played every night in front of a packed building. They've never had people hanging over the rafters. They've never had Sports Center talking about their game the next day. They've never had all the sports shows talking about the game. They've never had the media circus around them. Those players like DeWanna Bonner, like what's the other one? Natasha Howard, different girls, they're going to want to shine. They're going to want to show their stuffs. They're going to want to shine in front of that. And I think that they're going to take shots and they're going to, do their thing. And it's going to be hard for Stephanie to say, hey, stop taking so many shots. Let Caitlin look for Caitlin. It's going to get harder and harder throughout the season. I think she'll be lucky to score, 25 points maybe once a week.
What do you think she's going to average then, since you're telling him his 25 is wrong?
19.
All right. It's the same as last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to be a different 19. It's going to be different.
I have a
19.
response to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know how many shots Caitlin took per game last year? 14.7.
12.
14.5.
14.7. I mean,
14.7?
shots.
I read 5.
14.7. Kelsey Mitchell took 15.1. You know what Caitlin Clark shot from the field? 41.7%. Do you think it's going to go up?
Yes.
You think it's going to go up?
I think she'll shoot 45 this year. Yeah.
If she shoots 45%, she shot 33% from 3. You think it's going to go up?
Yeah.
Do you think she's going to shoot more free throws because she's going to get more calls? Do you think?
Maybe, but it's going to be crowded. I'm telling you, it's not. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah,
I'm asking you if she shoots,
I think she'll shoot. Yeah,
45%. If she goes from 33.4 to 38% from 3, and she takes 2 more free throws per game.
That's so funny.
That's literally
throwing those numbers
points
out.
Those are 6 points. Her shooting percentage from 3 was bad. We would all probably agree for what we expect.
Okay, so you're saying they're going to average 100 points a game? Because
I think they're going to average close. No, I think they're going to potentially average close to 100 points a game. And I think Aliyah Boston. And I think Aliyah Boston. I just think that Caitlin Clark's shooting percentage gets better. That at 14.7 shots, I don't think she's going to take 18 shots a game. I think she'll shoot the ball better. She'll be more open because she doesn't have ducks on the side of her like Nalissa Smith. And I mean, bluntly, let's call it for what it is. Lexi Hull is not good. She can make a wide open when you're not around me by a mile jump shot, but when you get anywhere near her, she can't make it, and then she disappears. Who was the other? I mean, who? It was basically Caitlin and Kelsey, and then
Maga Barbie though. Maga Barbie's going to take a lot of her minutes.
But she's going to average 8 points, which is what she's in her career. They're going to average a lot. They average 84 a game, I think, this past year. They're going to average probably 95 as a team. They're going to be running and gunning. Aliyah Boston's shot numbers will go down because she's going to be freaking walking up the floor potentially. I think that just by her percentages and shooting going up, you will see her points go
25.
up.
So you're saying 25, and I'm saying I'll agree with you if it's
23 and if she goes 23 and 12, is there any way on the face of this earth that she would not get MVP? Like that's ridiculous.
I think she's the favorite getting MVP coming into the season. I think that Asia Wilson. Got to remember, it's other factors. Asia Wilson's whole team left. She got to get acclimated to a whole new group.
Right.
So Asia Wilson may struggle. So yeah, my problem is Defisa Collier because Defisa Collier is the other. They would rather give it to anybody other than Caitlin, right? So you have
ABC Collier, channel, anybody but Caitlin.
Yeah. So Nafisa coming off the momentum. I mean, she's playing great and unrivaled, and her name is getting out there. So now all the people who will jump off Asia's wood after Asia struggle. Let's say Asia struggles earlier in the season, they'll just hop right off of Asia and hop right on to Nafisa. It'll be seamless, and it'll be Nafisa's the best. So it'll be like. Basically, Nafisa will become Asia, so it'll be still. It's not a given. I wouldn't bet my house on
it. Can I respond to one of these comments?
I think she's going to average at least 22, but I think 22, 10, and 6, something like that, is what she's going to get.
Can I respond to a couple of these comments because I see some like not the most pleasant comments, and I'd like.
I'm not even looking at the comments because I want to pay attention to what you guys are saying.
Nah, I mean I could be here all night with you if you want. I don't care.
Right. Yeah,
it's okay. Smoking something because Lexi hit tons of threes off 1 foot or fading away with a hand in her face.
I
did a whole video on that. I got a video of every 3 she hit. There was not a defender on her on 29 of her 33 made 3-pointers last year within 6 feet.
Who are we talking about?
Lexi Hull.
Oh.
The closest defender was 6 feet away on 29 of her 33 made threes. Do not tell me that I'm smoking something. This is what I do. I actually get stats and video to back up what I say. I don't just shoot it out of my butt.
Oh yeah, let me say this too. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's very important that you subscribe to the channel. Everyone take a second to subscribe to the channel. Yes, like the video and subscribe to the channel because you get the notifications that way. But and subscribe. I guess you guys already know us, but subscribe to everybody's channel. You know what I'm saying?
They don't know me, man. You guys got like 70,000 subscribers between the two of y'all, Adrian and Ak, man. Come on. I got 7,500.
Okay, so I'll give you my brief analysis. I think Caitlin Clark will win the MVP this year, although I disagree with I don't know, Adrian didn't say anything. I don't think she's the best player in the league. I think she's like the fourth best player in the league, but I think that'll change by game 20. She'll probably be the best player in the league. I don't think her defense is good enough. She had too many turnovers. And if you look at Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, and Brianna Stewart, even though you don't like Brianna Stewart, all of them are top 5 offensive players and top 5 defensive players. Caitlin Clark is an average offensive player, a little bit better and off the ball and things like that. And she's the best offensive player in the league. She's the best point guard in the history of the league. She's the best passer in the history of women's basketball. She's going to be the greatest player of all time, but she's not the best basketball player in the league yet because her defense is is nowhere near good enough to be the best player in the league. It will change very quickly with Coach White, and the new veteran players that she's bringing in. AK thought that Caitlin Clark was the best player in the league in game 1 this year. I don't know, AK. I wanted to say you were smoking someone. I heard that you say in a video.
Yeah, just like Bobby Knight said. Bobby Knight coached the '84 Olympic team, and he said after coaching the '84 Olympic team full of college players with Michael Jordan before the NBA draft that year, he said Michael Jordan's the best player on planet Earth. He said that before Michael Jordan ever played a game.
I'm out of my mind, by the way, according to one person.
Caitlin Clark, for her lack of defense, led all guards in shot blocks, and
that's off the ball.
A lot of them were on the ball. That's not correct. I watched every game too.
I think we can all agree her defense has to get better.
She's not a great defender, but
she's an airhead. She's an airhead on defense.
Best passer. She took 14.5 shots. Asia Wilson took 20 shots a game. That's the difference in the point totals, realistically, between the two of them last year.
Also, the stuff they run for Asia, man, I was looking at that last year. They run some good sets for Asia, man. Like you said, she's open all the time. It's the sets they run. She runs like all these slips where she, fakes a screen and slips, and they're looking for her too. Like, that one thing about Caitlin, they never look for her in the half court. Would you agree with that? Would you both you guys agree with that? In the half court, they never look for Caitlin.
She didn't get a lot of open shots.
Here's
some stats. Can everybody see that? Points generated last year, and that has to do with the assists, and then either 2 or 3 points, depending on what the basket was. She set a record in the history of the WNBA, 38.3, 45.2% of the offense. So what I did is I subtracted turnovers for that. And she still was in first place. You can see down here, she's ahead of everybody. And that includes the best of all time, because the second best of all time was actually, what's her name? Donna Taurasi, and that was higher than her by 3. So Caitlin Clark is the best offensive player in the league, according to that stat, at least. And I haven't subtracted the turnovers to make the Haitlins happy.
But you just said that you just criticized her for the turnovers. You just criticized her, and we know that the first half of the year,
said she's still the best offensive player.
But that's the thing. So don't use it to discredit her, and then use it. You flip flopped on your argument, counselor.
No.
I think he used the defense as the.
No, he used turnovers.
I subtracted the turnovers.
No, he mentioned turnovers, but he also
mentioned the turnovers. I put the turnovers in there to make it fair, because that's a statistic that's part of her
offense. Is it fair that when she would pass the ball early on in the season to Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull, that they would go right through their hands?
But Rudy, she still ended up in first. I was making a point to the Haitlins that even if I subtract the turnovers, and I don't believe the turnovers were all her fault, she's still in first. I was on your side in this particular argument. That's why I put the turnovers in there.
You did that. You did that attorney speak there. I work with lawyers every day.
I did it. I did it to show the Haitlins that she was still the best offensive player, even if I subtract the turnovers. That's why I put it in there.
The best player, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so let's see what the next question I can come up with here for you. I had a bunch of questions for you. Got sidetracked on that one, but that's okay. All right, here's a question for you. I've concluded that in my over 55 years of watching basketball, Caitlin Clark has received the worst whistle in the history of basketball, other than the obvious reason that she was a rookie getting a rookie whistle, which I maintain is a dumb and unfair tradition. What else do you think has led her to getting such a poor whistle? Anybody can jump in that wants to answer that question.
Adrian, they want you to talk. They're yelling at us for talking too much. By the way.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Well, you said you're removing the rookie factor.
Yeah, that's too obvious. That's too obvious. And I think it's unfair, but that's what it did. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that I do believe that there was an agenda to sort of keep Caitlin in her place. I said before, when in the beginning, before the season started, when Diana Taurasi said what she said, there was that was a dog whistle to get people to prove that Caitlin wasn't who she was supposedly. So I think that plays a factor, but I also think she doesn't get the whistle because she complains. And so I think the more you complain, the more they're likely to turn the other way because you've never committed a foul in your life, right? And so if that's the case, then I think you get on the officials' nerves and perhaps you don't get that whistle. But I think predominantly it is the fact that she was Caitlin Clark, and I do believe that everyone was in on it. Call it a conspiracy theory if you want, but I do believe that people were in on it to minimize Caitlin Clark's effect in favor of the other players who are in the league. And they didn't respect her coach, and she didn't go to bat for them. So when you get in the officials' ears, that has a way of working to your favor. You have to know the balance of working officials and not getting on the wrong side of officials. And because Christy Sides didn't do her part, they didn't respect her, and then Caitlin complained herself, and so that played a factor as well.
I agree with that. Go ahead. Okay. I agree with all that. Another thing though that what I learned playing basketball, coaches always said when you're aggressive, you get the call, right? And the lack of 2-point shots from Caitlin, the lack of shooting inside of the 3-point line, and the lack of getting the ball in the half court sets, because a lot of your fouls are going to come in the half court set when everybody's down there, you drive to the basket, you get some contact. She rarely shot within the half court, and that has nothing to do with her getting a poor whistle. Either it's a foul. Hold on. You get foul calls going to the basket. That's where you get the most of your foul calls. Jump shots, you don't really get a lot of fouls on jump shots, bro.
I know, but I don't think that's relevant to the conversation. I think
it's relevant because I think it's relevant to what we're going to see, because I do believe that they're working with her on more going to the basket. And I think in that regard, it does apply. So I think we're going to see more of that from her, more of the mid-range.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking why didn't she get more foul calls. I was asking why didn't she get the foul calls when she's fouled? That's two different concepts.
Oh, when she's fouled.
Yeah.
Okay.
She drives to the basket. She didn't get the calls when she drove to the basket. So it doesn't matter whether she drove to the basket. She got hit in the head and they looked the other way.
I think it's what Adrian said is the reason why she didn't get the fouls when she, they wanted to, they were like, yo, you're not just coming in this league taking over. We know how good you are. Like, let's cut the crap. Everybody saw it. Even what's the girl? The coach for the Aces,
Becky Hammond.
She said they watched every game as a team. They watched every Iowa game. She already said that. Right. That's why they drafted Kate. That's why they drafted Kate Martin, because they watched all the games. They had been scouting Kate Martin indirectly scouting her, because they watched every Iowa game, just like we watched every Iowa game. They know how good Caitlin was. They knew she was going to come in and dominate, so they had to. So they were like, "Yo, we gotta put some, put some water on these flames a little bit." I think,
I'm going to cut you off, Rudy. Do you have an opinion on this?
Why she didn't get calls? Why she didn't get calls when they were fouls?
Already said.
I mean, realistically, there was an agenda against her the whole season. There was an absolute agenda against her. I don't want to hear that's the rookie thing, because I've seen rookies get. I mean, some of these calls that weren't called were so blatantly bad, like that Marina Mabry one where she just tomahawk chopped her, gave her a clothesline, and they didn't even call a foul. Right. It wasn't even a foul. That was a flagrant foul, and it was right. I mean, there are calls there are non-calls happening right in front of these refs. And they're staring at her. They're staring at her, and they don't call it. I mean, am I talking about little things? No, I'm talking about when it's clearly a chop across the arm, balls lost, turnover, bucket the other way, and you don't call that? Now, Caitlin Clark needs to learn the STFU. She needs to stop with the temper tantrums, because the temper tantrums will never gain her. She's not Draymond Green, and they hate him in the NBA, but she needs to learn enough with the temper tantrums. She has a temper tantrum after every single whistle or non-whistle, and that gets old, and it makes you look like you're a 5-year-old. Like, if I'm going to critique people for certain things, that is an area of Caitlin Clark where she needs to grow up and stop moaning after every single non-call, because it as a referee,
I agree.
Referees eventually like, screw you, I'm not going to give it to you. But for the ones that were just so blatant, there was an agenda against her. Absolutely.
I have one other reason she wasn't getting the calls. The reason I think, besides all those reasons are all right, is because they were afraid to show favoritism, because then they would say, oh, you're showing favoritism to this, this golden egg, this golden goose.
Great point. That's a great point.
They erred on the wrong side of favoritism and ended up being unfavorable, not even consciously.
But that's also basically the same thing.
That's true too. But this was another reason why they did it. Some of them, were obviously protecting the black women in the league, maybe the black lesbians in the league. They didn't like this white woman getting a lot of attention. They're going to try to hold her down. I think all of that is true. And I think all of these reasons are true. And that's why she got the worst whistle in NBA history and basketball history that I've ever seen. We'll move on. And I have another good question for you, I think. Here we go. Everyone likes Aliyah Boston, but Fever fans don't think she is a good fit for
Aliyah
Boston.
Everyone likes Aliyah Boston.
Well, okay, not everybody, almost everybody. Let me just get the question out.
As a person.
Everyone but AK likes Aliyah Boston, but some Fever fans don't think she is a good fit for Fever's run and gun offense and want her traded or have her get limited playing time. Other fans, including Rudy, who did a whole video on it, are concerned that she showed up for camp last year out of shape, and despite being halfway through the season with Unrivaled, she was exhausted halfway through a one-on-one match. Are you concerned she is not a good fit for the Fever, and also that she doesn't take her cardiovascular conditioning as seriously as she should?
Go ahead, Adrian. I'll let you go ahead.
All right. So I've said numerous times, I've done a few videos on Aliyah Boston for channel members, as well as for also, for the public. She's the one piece that I'm not 100% sure about. She's very nice, to use that word. She's a sweetheart. Everybody has to say, oh, we like Aliyah. She's really sweet. But I need to see her be more aggressive. And I think that I know they talk about the big three, and they've made that clear. Caitlin, Kelsey, Aliyah. But I think Aliyah might find herself in a situation where she's fighting for that spot and for those minutes if she isn't more aggressive. Yes, she came in. Listen, I was away for years, like you said. I came back with Caitlin Clark. I hear about Aliyah Boston. I didn't watch her in South Carolina. If I did, I wasn't aware of her. And I'm like, this was the number one pick. I was surprised. Now, she's like a roller coaster. Some days she seems to be on. Some days she seems to be off. I will disagree. I'm watching Unrivaled. I saw the one-on-one tournament. I heard some people say, man, she seems out of breath. I'm going to disagree with that, because what I saw from her was where other people were gasping for air. When there was a dead ball, Aliyah Boston was saying to the ref, give me the ball. Her hands were out. She was ready for the ball. A lot of people were sucking air. We know 1-on-1 is not the same as 3-on-3, is not the same as 5-on-5. So, yeah, but I didn't see her as being out of shape in that 1-on-1 tournament. I saw her saying, give me the ball with her hands out. And I watch all the games that go live for him. But in terms of her aggression, in terms of her skill around the basket, I think she's going to have to step it up, because I'm not feeling Aliyah Boston is just so wonderful. I'm not feeling that. I think she's going to be working with Keith Porter. I think we're going to have to see. I think DeWanna Bonner is going to be a good influence on her, and I hope we see more from her. But I do believe we need to see more from her.
Okay. Either two want to jump in?
I can't stand Aliyah Boston. I think she's a wonderfully nice person, and that's the extent of what I can say about her that is positive. Okay. And I'm watching something different, because she looks complete when she's out there. She looks lost. Mm-hmm. She looked complete. She was gassed in 3 possessions in the 1-on-1. She couldn't even make a layup over a 6'1" guard when she had the guard backed under the rim and then smacked it off the board like a boulder. What was that?
I'm gonna cut you off for just a second. Excuse me, because I want to address a comment I see. Marlon Hill, you can't see that big butt. She's a black woman. Okay, so we can move on past that. Her butt's gonna be different.
Let's be respectful in the comments, okay?
Yeah. So so maybe some people don't realize how that goes. So let me just explain that.
I got a big butt.
Let me know. I don't have time to read it because I want to listen to what you guys are saying so I can keep it going.
I'm just saying.
So if you see something you don't like, let me know.
Don't police the comment. Don't police it. Just let you got 440 in here, man. Let it rock, man.
I don't want people to be insulted.
No, I'm just saying. I don't mind. I just want to address it. That's all I'm saying. Because you got a big butt doesn't mean she's out of shape.
No, the butt has nothing to do with out of shape. I don't know at all. It's got nothing to do with the butt. She drove her right to the rim. She had her under the basket, and she bricked the ball off the backboard, and then she did it again. She's not physical. She's soft, in my opinion. She needs to get a lot stronger in terms of physically stronger, and that's where I question it because season ended in September. She's bigger today than she was in terms of she looks like she's, I don't want to call them fat because I'm a fat butt in comparison to her. Okay. She's 6'5". She's like 220, 225. She looks like she's getting a little girthy for a basketball player in the midsection. And maybe she's wearing 3 layers of jerseys. I don't know, but she looks chunkier than, say, for example, Brittany Griner. That Brittany Griner abuse that she took the other day. I mean, she's got 2 hands on her. And she's still just backing right through her, turns around. She still fouls her. They don't call the foul. She gets an easy layup. It's like she's there's no resistance from her. And I do think she's out of shape. And I do think she is because I've watched them all too. She's the worst player in Unrivaled. And now people say Unrivaled doesn't matter. It shows a certain mentality. She's not a dog. She doesn't have that killer instinct. Even when we were watching last year towards the end of the season, I got so sick of watching what I was watching. She stopped running the floor. She got more into that pick and pop, not pick and roll. So she's popping for 20-footers. She can't shoot a lick from the perimeter. So why is she picking and popping rather than picking and rolling? To me, that's someone that doesn't want to be get anyone be physical with her. People keep calling her undersized. She's 6'5". Like, I don't want to hear this anymore about being undersized. So I'm not talking about her butt, but she's a 6'5" tall woman, who's 220, 225.
I got to cut you off just because I'm getting close to the end.
I would trade her right now before you lose the value.
Okay. AK, you have anything to say about Aliyah Boston?
I just want to say this about what Adrian said. She said she didn't watch her in college. Aliyah Boston was a problem in college. She had this move where she would spin and she would elbow the girl and bolt knock her like halfway across the lane. And she was a bully in college. I don't know what happened. Her game was bully ball in college.
Wow. And did you see her first season in the WNBA?
No, I didn't see it either.
I didn't either.
I want to know like what happened,
Nobody did. None of us did.
We've talked a lot about Aliyah in the live streams and different things, and we all say the same thing. The other day I said everybody, I said there's one person that I'm concerned about in this team. Can anybody tell me who that person is? Aliyah. People know. So
I got one more thing.
Adrian, one second. Adrian, what time you have to do a live stream at 7:30, right? What time do you have to do?
I'm translating. I'm in Central Time. So I'm doing Unrivaled. So
you got to go in a couple minutes then?
Yeah, in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
10 minutes or so, yeah.
I just got one more thing on Aliyah Boston. I did a whole video on it, and people may have seen it or didn't see it. I don't know. But you can go back, and I'm going to mention this name, and people hate her so darn much and all that stuff. When Kennedy Carter body checked Caitlin Clark, Aliyah Boston was standing right there. And her mouth went, and she did nothing. I don't like that type of player. And people said, oh, you want her to get ejected? You want her to get fined? You want her to get suspended? No. What? See, this is where people who are speaking don't have any knowledge of basketball. why would she get ejected for jumping up in Kennedy Carter's grill?
You never get ejected for do that.
For defending your teammate.
You always get to get in somebody's face. Like once you throw a punch, you get ejected. Or
no one's sitting here. I joked around saying she should Roman Reigns her and give her a spear. That's a joke. No, she needs to go at her and body bump her. Like, what do you think you can do that? And that to me set a tempo and a tone for what Caitlin Clark's teammates allowed to happen to her all year, because they never.
That's why they got
the only one that defended her was Erica Wheeler, and if you remember, Melissa Smith tried to pull her away from going at Dejanay Carrington.
Yeah, but here's the thing: they got players this year that I think are going to defend. I even think DeWanna Bonner's not going to let that happen. I think Natasha Howard was going to let that happen. I think that you're right. I don't know what happened to Aliyah Boston, because Aliyah Boston, maybe we need to go watch that first season, because when she was at South Carolina, she was always in little dust ups, little, you know how South Carolina play. They're always in, especially back then, they was always into something. She's just like, I don't know what's happened to her, but it wasn't just her. It was the entire team. It was everybody.
She turned Alyssa Thomas. She and Alyssa Thomas kind of got into each other's face a little bit there. I don't expect her to be who she's not. Yeah, I expect you to walk over and say a little something, but I don't expect her to be trying to throw fists and stuff like that. That's just
tell me this. Hold on. Can I just ask you this question, Adrian?
She could have stared her down, though, right? She could have stared her down at least.
2 plays later, giving Kennedy Carter a little push or elbow, because you don't have to get in their face then, but somebody from their team hitting the floor later on in the game.
Well, it's like we saw with Erica Wheeler. Erica Wheeler did that with Dejanay.
Don't do what baseball does. Don't do it to another person.
That happens all the time.
But Erica Wheeler did that with Dejanay with the eye poke. We saw that. That was a little, I don't expect her to be out there throwing fists and stuff like that. That's not her character. That's just not the kind of person she is. But you can, send a little message.
Right. I have one quick question. Is Juju Watson? I said Juju Watson the other day. Now I'm saying, is Juju Watkins is Juju Watkins already on the 2028 Olympic team? That's my last question.
Go ahead, Rudy.
28.
That wasn't a serious question.
Wait. 28. So she's 25. 26. She's a junior next year. She's a junior.
Finished her first year.
She's a junior next year.
I'm going to finish up with some rapid fire questions.
There's
6 questions. There's 6 questions.
Well, yes, she is. And if they don't put her on there, it's utterly foolish.
It was a joke. But
people.
Questions. Rudy got 6 questions, 2 for each of you. It's like LeBron or Jordan. You just answer the question real quick, okay? And I specifically have them for each person.
Rapid fire, got it.
Rapid fire. Rudy, bigger narcissist, Angel Reese or Asia Wilson?
Asia Wilson.
AK, better defender, Nafisa Collier or Asia Wilson?
Nafisa Collier.
Adrian, worst coach, Teresa Witherspoon or Christy Sides?
Teresa Witherspoon.
AK, biggest Hatelin, Queen Cheryl Swoops or Princess Natalie Esquire?
Who's Cheryl that for?
Swoops.
That's for AK.
Cheryl Swoops.
Cheryl Swoops. Rudy, most overrated, Paige Beckers or Juju Watkins?
Paige Beckers.
Last question. You ready for this one, Adrian? Better coach, Gino Auriemma or Pat Summitt?
Pat Summitt, and she's in heaven, and she's still a better coach.
I saved that. The last question today.
I'm wearing my colors.
I have one last question for you, Adrian. If you're going to rate a player's ability, because these two are going to hang around a little bit, looks like. What percentage would you put, if you're rating the person, what percentage would you put on their offensive ability and what percentage would you put on their defensive ability? For instance, I would say like 60-40, something like that. 60 for their offense, 40 for their offense, for the defense, because offense you can make other people better and defense you can't. What would you say?
You want a number? You want me to?
Yeah, about a number.
I can't give you a number.
Okay, just curious because we're going to discuss that after.
I mean, I can discuss it, but I can't give you a number.
Okay, all right. I'm going to have that. I'm going to use that as part of my discussion about Caitlin Clark afterwards. I wanted to get your opinion on that. All right.
My opinion comes in words, not numbers.
Anyways, and the traditional sports reporters, they have what's called a parting shot. You don't have to do commentary if you don't want. You can just promote your channel, or you can do both. Adrian, you fire first.
Okay. Adrian from the Adrian Ross Show. And we're Sports and Culture Connect. Also have a second channel, Adrian Ross Squared. And thank you. I appreciate being on with you guys and hanging out with you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Rudy
Rodriguez Showmont. Come On Now, the podcast. It's at Come On Now, the podcast. And then also I have a second channel at Rudy's Rant on YouTube, Instagram. It's the same stuff, Rudy's Rant and Come On Now, the Come On Now podcast, or the pod, one of the two, whatever it is. But I'm happy to stick around longer. I mean, I got nothing to do.
Okay, yeah, I'll continue this, but she has to leave because she's got to do the live stream. Ak?
Yeah, my kids ain't here yet, but I'm going to eventually have to leave. So I'll stick around for like 10 more minutes. Maybe I'll stick around for like 10 more minutes.
Okay. You want to mention your channel? You got 2 channels, right?
Yeah, my channel. Yeah, I think everybody probably know Ak Nation TV, Ak Nation News. Just type it into the search bar. You'll find it. Ak Nation TV is the Caitlin Clark channel. Ak Nation News is where I talk about current events and topics in the social topics and politics and crime and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, great. First of all, Adrian, thank you very much.
Thank you
for showing up today. Like I said, like twice a month, probably for everybody. Just tell me when you're available and I'll squeeze you into the schedule. We'll talk about it next week. Rob will be here in 2 weeks, and I got some coaching questions and some defense questions, and I saved them for Rob and you in the same night, Adrian, because he's going to be on the panel one sometimes, because he was a defensive specialist and a coach. So anyway, I know Rudy was a coach too, so we'll save them for another day. Okay, so enjoy your live stream, and we'll continue this conversation, and I'll save the good questions for when you're here.
All my live stream folks are hanging out with you, so I don't know.
I'll go over to you. I haven't watched I haven't watched one game of thing. I didn't watch one game.
Most of the fun is just in our chat. So
my first question for them is going to be in the hockey. They had really good success with the U.S. Russia thing, and they had high ratings. Do you guys think that do you think the U.S. Michael Wilmon's been saying this for years. Do you guys think that the U.S. should play the world in the NBA All-Star game? Now that they have enough people in the world that are good enough players, and top 7 players are from outside the United States right now.
You want to go first? I mean, I say no.
I want to know why you say no.
This has nothing to do with that. These guys have no pride. American basketball players don't have country pride. That's part of the problem. Like they didn't have country. They didn't have country pride in the Olympics. Was that the best that they could have played? Do we really think that Serbia is a 4-point difference to the U.S. team because they have Jokic and a bunch of others that no one's ever heard of? I mean, Bojan Bogdanovic, but like, is that where we are? That the best American basketball players, including LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, they didn't defend in that. They don't care. They don't have any. And this goes. Hockey players. First of all, hockey players are real men. You can't coast in hockey, or you'll get your head taken off. Basketball, throw the ball off the backboard. Let's move out the way. Let's dunk the ball. Let's shoot a half court. I mean, the fact that you let Curry shooting half court threes in an All-Star game, it's embarrassing. So this has nothing to do. Adam Silver is destroying the NBA. LeBron James, his entitlement syndrome has damaged the NBA greatly. I mean, he promised in 2009 to be in the dunk contest 2010. Never happened. He lied. He set a tone. When Kobe left the NBA in 2015, the entire attitude left the NBA. And like he held people accountable. LeBron doesn't hold anybody accountable. He's the most entitled player there is. If LeBron James walks into the locker room at the All-Star game and says, first of all, LeBron protested this All-Star game. He wasn't hurt because he played 2 days later in a back-to-back, actually. So, yeah, he was so hurt that he couldn't play the All-Star game, waited till an hour before. That was a protest. And if you heard Draymond the entire night saying, how dare they put these rookies on the court? I agree with Draymond Green, actually. It's a joke. It's another one of Adam Silver's gimmicks that he thinks work, like the in-season tournament, which is a joke in itself as well. But if LeBron walks into the locker room and says, we are all playing MF and defense tonight, you better bring it and leave it out there. You think there'd be a difference?
Rudy, they did that in that first time they played that 24-minute thing.
No,
they actually played tight defense.
They played defense.
Even James Harden played defense.
They played defense in the Elam ending. They didn't play for 3 quarters. The game was 160 to 170 still. They're not playing defense. They're not playing defense. They're not playing hard. I just watched an All-Star game from the 1990s. These guys were killing each other to win. Look, NBA will never be hockey. And I mean, watching that, I watched that hockey game with Canada. Did you see the looks on the faces of those American hockey players? They look like you just sniped out their mothers, their dogs, their kids. Matthew Tkachuk said this was bigger than Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. And he just played it and won it. That's how personal this was. NBA players playing for their country against the world. The world guys would kick the crap out of them because they take it a lot more seriously, probably. American NBA players, I don't have any respect for most of those guys. They're all softer than butter. It's embarrassing.
Let jump in here.
That's my reasoning, because they'll never play hard. The gimmicks don't change your soul. And if you saw Wemby and Chris Paul just dump the ball out of the bin in the skills contest, those guys are pathetic.
Ak, what do you think?
I would love it, man. Here's the thing, because when Rudy says, damn, shit. Hold on 1 second.
You meant crap, right?
Yeah, I haven't cussed all night. All I'm saying at the end of the day is he's on the phone now. Is that okay? Well, you ready? You good?
Let me just say this. Let me just say this before I leave, because I gotta leave after this.
Okay.
I would love it, because what Rudy says, that they don't have the pride, I would like to give them a chance to fail at showing us that they don't have the pride in their country. It's different in the Olympics. Here, they would. I mean, I think they would get bullied so bad if they lost. I think the way NBA Twitter is so toxic. I think that would spur them. Not getting roasted by NBA Twitter would spur them to win, to play with some pride. Not win, but play with some pride. But I gotta go, man. Thanks for having me, Mark, man. Salute to you, Rudy. I'm gonna be watching your next video, man. And Adrian too. Shoot to all the fans. I'm out. Take it easy.
Okay. All right. So I think that the first couple years they play, it'll be really good. It'll be really intense, because it's a novelty. And then after the novelty wears off, what you're saying is true, and they're going to resort back to the other stuff. But I think it will work for probably the first 3 years, and then they'll start doing crap again. But I really think I don't
trust them. I think
think about it. I saw him get really intense that one time, and this is even more intense. And it's when it's
that was the world. But that was in the Elam ending. That wasn't for 3 quarters before that. That was for the Elam ending. The problem is if they don't, there's plenty of games where that Elam ending thing actually was probably a little bit better than what they did. I mean, not probably, it was way better. But if the game is a 30-point game going into the Elam ending, like, what's the point? The whole draft thing was ridiculous. Like, these guys couldn't pick players to fit their rosters to save their lives. I mean,
I think it would surprise you that they have some pride about in the country.
I don't think these guys have any pride. And I mean, to me, anyone who argues to me that the rest of the world's caught up, that a team with Joker and a bunch of Serbians playing in Serbia are within 4 points of the U.S. in the Olympics.
I think they wouldn't be quite as close if they would play, if they had the 3-point line back a little bit. Because I think the 3-point line makes it easier. I think it makes it easier for an upset with a 3-point line in a 40-minute game instead of 48.
Or if they played hard, play hard.
I
mean, NBA players don't play hard ever.
I think they were trying in the Olympics.
You think they were trying and darn near losing to South Sudan?
Why would they not try? There's gold medals at stake.
Because they're coasters. They're front runners. They coast.
No.
They're doing as little as they possibly can to get the result they want. So that's just my feeling, and they've proven it for years. The game today, I don't even watch the NBA. I have season tickets to the Miami Heat. I've not been to one game this year.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Try not to confuse the team defense with the individual defense, where defense wins championships and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is rating an individual. when I rate an individual in basketball, I don't think it's 50-50 because I didn't have time to explain this before. Because I think in offense, you can make your teammates better a lot easier than you can on defense. There's more team offense and things of that nature. And in defense, yeah, there's team defense, but it's not the same. So I think offense is more important than defense when you're ranking a player, but I don't think defense is irrelevant. I think it's maybe 60-40. It could be 2/3, 1/3. There's no exact percentage, but it's not 10% for defense and 90% for offense, which is what you guys are doing when you're ranking Caitlin Clark so high. And if you look at those three players, they're all top 5 players in both offense and defense. And Caitlin Clark is at best an average defender. And her on-ball defense is terrible at times. I know she gets a lot of blocks and steals. Most of it's all about defense. If you watch her play defense, her woman is on the 3-point line, and she's playing in no man's land for no reason. You can't tell me that as a coach or a player, that's the right thing to do. Because every time her woman gets the ball, she gets a wide open 3, and she's there too late. Rob goes crazy every time it happens. So that costs the team a lot of points when she does that. And when she gets beaten on, the person just drives right by her and she reaches in because her stance is so bad. She has no foot movement and she can't handle persons getting by. That's because her stance is so bad. She doesn't know how to slide her feet. That's why her defense is so bad. So I think that will be corrected this year. And I think that when it gets corrected, which shouldn't take that long because this is just a bad habit she had that Lisa Bluter never corrected and Christy Sides never corrected. Stephanie White and the other veterans and with the player coach, I forget his name, will correct it. Because it's not a hard thing to correct. Just getting the right stance and energy and stuff like that. So when she does that, she will be the best player in the league. And the turnovers, I'm not worried about. I know why the turnovers were like they were. Sometimes they were just bad calls from refs that were turnovers that should have been fouls or things of that nature. Sometimes they assigned a turnover to her when she passed the ball and the person dropped it. It should have been a turnover and the person dropping it. I get all that. I don't think her turnovers were the correct number. But at the same time, there were still too many. And I think they'll come down this year. In fact, I think they'll come down to 4, and I think she'll have at least 10 assists. So that's a good ratio, 2.5. Right now, she's at, was it 1 point? She was 1.5 this year, 1.8 in college.
Probably around there.
Yeah,
Probably
she was 1.8.
there.
So that's why I don't think she's the best player yet, because I think defense is close to 40 to 33%, and she's too low on defense.
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
I completely understood what you were talking about. Okay. One thing I think about Indiana is that they didn't play defense at all as a team. So individually they weren't good, and team wise they weren't good. They're starting 5. No one played defense except for Lexi Hall. Kelsey Mitchell's an undersized 2. She's 5'8". She can't guard anybody. She can. She just doesn't. She doesn't have. Just doesn't do it. She just doesn't do it. So again, so we're gonna compare players. Kelsey Mitchell was a poor defender. Aliyah Boston is a terrible defender in my opinion. Melissa Smith was a statue, horrendous defender. So you got 4 what you would call bad defensive players and 1 who didn't start for half the season. And when they didn't have her, they had Christy Wallace, who can't defend anybody, or they had Katie Lou Samuelson, who can't defend anybody. So you had a team of players that couldn't defend, yet you're playing man-to-man. You should be playing zone.
Hey, Rob, and just in there.
They never played zone the
Rob
entire
said that all
season.
the time. Rob said that all the time.
They never played zone the entire season. The entire season. I watched every game they played. I never saw them play zone. Not one time. Not one possession. I watched Phoenix go from man to man and then play a zone, and watched Indiana's offense disappear for a quarter and blow 30-point leads twice against them.
Right. They're terrible.
Now, so when we talk about Caitlin Clark's inadequacies on defense, no one on that team could play defense. Like the Miami Heat will go into a zone to protect Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero.
But that doesn't affect her on-ball defense.
But you don't need on-ball defense if you're playing zone.
Well, I
if you're in a zone,
but
the on-ball defense is negligible. You're not, and none of them play good on-ball defense. So if we're gonna blame her for her on-ball defense,
I'm just talking about. I'm rating her as a player, not compared to her teammates.
Nafisa Collier is not guarding anybody 23 feet from the rim. She's not guarding a big 23 feet from the rim. They're just gonna be out there. So a big, Brianna Stewart to me I think she's horrendous both ways. They can say what they want. I think she's one of for what she's been claimed to be. she's horrendous.
She was
and
first
she
team All-Pro on defense this year.
What does that tell me about the WNBA? The league is void of talent. It's they're expanding with teams, and they have no talent to justify expansion.
That
like, look at what's happening. They have there's no talent in this league. The fact that we're sitting here and we're 4 teams in 2 years or 3 years, they went to 16, and then they contracted teams because you need talent to get people to buy these tickets. But yeah, no, I think that when you come, does defense matter? Yes, sure, to an extent. To me, in today's basketball, it's like 80-20. That's what I think it's gone. So it's gone like 80-20, 80 offense, 20 defense. And her off-ball defense, I think her off-ball defense is good. I think her off-ball defense is good.
I've said that before. I've said that I've made several videos. Her off-ball defense is good. That's where she gets most of her steals and some of her blocks. And she also plays some good team defense at times, but at other times she does things like what I pointed out. And sometimes she just loses her person and she turns her head because she's too busy trying to get the rebound or trying to get a steal through the key, and all of a sudden a person circles around and gets a wide open 3. And that happens. I mean, that's what Ak was talking about, where she said she was an airhead on defense, where she just loses her person.
I think that's also Christy Saad's fault. I think
I'm not saying her defense isn't it's all her fault.
No.
She had 2 coaches that could have corrected it. 5 years.
They failed. And they
5
failed.
years.
So they blame coaches because that's part of what develops players. I mean,
right, but that's irrelevant to what her level is right now.
And yet all that, I still think she's a better player than all those women.
Yeah.
And if you were going to start a franchise in the WNBA right now, you would take her number 1 ahead of everybody.
I would have taken her number 1 before she entered the league. That's irrelevant to whether she's
better.
But
it is relevant because if you would take her number 1, you're not taking her. Are you taking her because of fans? Or are you taking her because of her balling skills? She took a bunch of dead ducks at Iowa to back-to-back national championship games.
I'm taking her for all the reasons. I'll tell you what I think of with her, and I'll tell this to everybody what I think of her. Because I've been watching her play since she was a freshman in college. And when she didn't make the top 15 on the Wooden Award, I thought it was the most egregious overlooking of an athlete in the history of sports. She was probably the second best player, maybe the best or whatever. Paige had, was more consistent, whatever, but she was up there. She was up there. She was second in the AP voting for player of the year as a sophomore. She won. She should have got unanimous votes both years, her junior, senior. I think she was the best player since Cheryl Miller in college. I think she was the best passer in the history of women's basketball by the time she was a senior in college. That doesn't mean I don't think she's a great player. I think she's a phenomenal player. I just think she picked up bad habits that she hasn't corrected yet on defense, and she forces some balls on offense. I understand that some of her passes are high risk, high reward passes, which make it worth it. But she still does a little bit too much where she gets trapped or she forces it in below and just kind of like forces the ball for no reason. I don't know why she does that. I think Christy sides, it's clueless. Lisa Bluter decided she needs energy for offense. This is how we're going to win. And they didn't teach her proper defense. And Stephanie White will change that along with some veterans that they added. And next year she will be the best player. Sometime by game 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever, she'll be the best player. So I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I'm merely saying I think she needs a little bit more to go before she passes up Asia Wilson or Afisa Collier. Maybe Breanna Stewart, she's as good as right now. But
have you been watching Unrivaled?
No, I haven't watched Unrivaled.
You need to go watch it. Go watch 6 weeks of Breanna Stewart.
I saw her. I thought she looked good in the finals. Except for some of her shooting.
Except for when she got away with traveling.
Right, I know she traveled
win the game.
Times.
Yeah,
I thought Afisa Collier was the best person in the finals.
She was.
And she might have been the best person in the league the second half of the season, Afisa Collier.
She probably was. Her and Caitlin were side by side because Caitlin averaged 25 and like 11 the last second half of the season.
So I agree with you that she's going to score more. I don't know if it's going to be 25, but I think Ak is mistaken that she's only going to score 19 because when I wrote down the numbers that I thought she was going to have this year, and I'll give them to you right now. It's so funny, the numbers that you gave. I gave 0.455% for shooting. You said 45%. I said 38% on threes. I figured this out today. I said 22, 10. The rebounds are a little tricky to me because I don't know if the other teams are just going to give up the rebound. And I don't know if Stephanie White is just going to let her have the rebounds and have everybody run. So it's unclear. She's going to get 5 to 7 rebounds a game, and her assists are going to be at least 10 because she's got
at least
so many better players.
Got weapons everywhere.
Right. And they're going to make layups. She makes these great passes to people cutting her at the basket and they miss layups. And that's an easy assist. That's about 3 a game that she could have had last year.
Oh, yeah.
That would have given her 11. So last year, when the season started, I made predictions for Caitlin Clark because people told me I was crazy. That I was like, oblivious to the fact that she had limitations. I said, I know what I see. I saw Michael Jordan. I knew he was going to be the greatest player of all time. His 3rd year in the league. I said, she will be the best player of all time. She will make first team All-Pro. She will not win the MVP. And she will go 20, 10, and 6. She went 19, 8.4, and 5.6. Almost exact. So I didn't overrate her.
No,
I didn't overrate
her. That's the way I thought she'd average. I thought she'd actually average more points. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I didn't think that her team would sabotage her early on.
Or a coach.
Her coach. But I thought her team did also. I think her team was a big problem. They weren't comfortable yet. They didn't understand what she brought. There was, and then yes, all those dropped easy assists that, Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull couldn't catch a pass of hers early on in the season, blowing layup after layup after layup. The amount of missed layups that she gave them and they would miss. So I think that was something that happened.
Touching that subject for 1 second, Rudy. I looked this up, and you coach basketball. I looked this up, and in baseball, when there's an error, someone determines who the error is on. And I read in basketball, including the NBA and the WNBA, that's what they're supposed to do. They're not just supposed to give it to the passer. And for some reason, in this league, every time the ball's dropped, they give Caitlin Clark a turnover.
Imagine if LeBron got charged with every turnover for every drop pass in the NBA. Because first off, they catch the ball. But if LeBron was playing in the WNBA, he'd average 10 turnovers a game because they could never catch his pass.
Which right through their hands. Tells me the scorekeepers are part of the conspiracy to keep Caitlin Clark down. Which is amazing.
They are. There's a lot of things that are there. I thought the whole idea that a person drops the pass, goes right through their hands, and the person who passed the ball right through their hands, you get called for the turnover. I think that's absurd. But
I read they're not supposed to in basketball. It's just supposed to be just like baseball. For some reason, the scorekeepers have not been trained that way, or they only did it to Caitlin Clark. I didn't pay attention to other people's turnovers. I will also say this: I went to the first.
No! Someone just said it's Rudy LeBron. No! I can't stand LeBron James.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I went to the first game against New York, right? And if you watch the NBA, they call foot fouls even when they're not foot fouls because the rule is they're supposed to move their foot if it's a foot foul, but they call it every time anyways. Anytime they hit their leg or foot, the NBA call a foul. Okay, so you think that's what should be the rule in WNBA? No, I saw the first play against New York, and people might even remember it because it was like the 3rd game of the year or 4th game of the year. The person stuck their leg out and hit the foot. The ref was right in front of their, swallowed their whistle, and then Caitlin Clark went and tried to block it and got a foul. So not only did they cost her a foul that shouldn't have been a foul, she was attributed a turnover on a kickball. I saw that about 6 times this year. 6 turnovers because they wouldn't call a kick foul when she passed it, even though it should have been a kickball. Tell me why they're not calling that when they call it every time in the NBA, even when they're not supposed to.
In the WNBA,
right. That's why. So I know the turnovers are wrong, but I
think across the board you have substandard officials, you have substandard, and remember those scorekeepers are like officials. They're substandard. They're not qualified. There's a league of unqualified people. Let's just take for example, and we can go. If you want to go in different directions, I'm happy to do so. You're not watching it, but I'll give you an example. You have a broadcast with Unrivaled right now, and I'm not watching now, but I'll watch the recording. And Lisa Leslie's been working with Angel Reese, and she's actually helping her. Realistically, she's helping her. You can see it. You can actually see it. But Lisa Leslie, in a broadcast, she's a commentator saying, "I feel like a proud mom. We work so hard together." That's embarrassing. You're not can you imagine if Shaq went on a broadcast and was working with a player and says, "Yeah, I feel like a proud dad of Joel Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns." How ridiculous does that sound? They get away. And then you have the other guy, Glasheen, who's the play-by-play guy, using terminology he heard on LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast referring to the nail, because no one ever on a broadcast says the nail on the court, because no one knows what it is if you're not a basketball guy. And
what's the nail? What's the nail? I don't know.
It's basically the free throw line, corner of the free throw line. But no one in the world would know that unless you're really deep into basketball. And he keeps referring to the nail and the nail and nail. And he heard that on LeBron's podcast with JJ Redick. And now he's using it to make himself sound like he's smarter, but no one knows what he's talking about. So that, like, you name it, about the only two people I'm happy to listen to talking about women's basketball on TV are Ryan Ruocco and Rebecca Lobo. The rest of them, Renee Montgomery is a part owner of a team, and she's sitting here talking about free agency on this broadcast. That's literally tampering. You know?
I like Rebecca Lobo. I think she's very good, except in one instant. When Kennedy Carter hip checked and shoulder checked Caitlin Clark to the ground, I went back and watched the entire scenario, the entire event. And it was near the end of the third quarter, like 200 minutes. And what's his name? Ryan Rocco or Rocco? How do you pronounce his name?
Ryan Ruocco, yeah.
He kept saying, "Oh, maybe they should evaluate it and go to the camera, and maybe that's a flagrant one." He's going on and on by himself, and she said nothing, and that's her job. She should be. I'm telling you, went back and played it.
That's her job.
She said nothing to the end of the quarter. In the beginning of the quarter, I played it again. She said nothing again. She said zero. In fact, she should have been the first one to said it, and she should have said, "Wow, that's a flagrant one, maybe a flagrant two." That was the only thing she should have said. She said nothing. So the next day she gets on the air, and I lost all respect for her after this, other than the fact I do think she's a good commentator. She said, "Oh, that was an obvious flagrant one foul." Well, why didn't you say that during the game? That's your only job when that happens. That was a really significant event in the history of the WNBA, and she swallowed the whistle and said nothing. Now tell me, why do you think she said nothing?
Because it was probably against, at the time, it was against Caitlin Clark, and I think there was an agenda. I do think there was an agenda.
He was scared of everybody.
I think the agenda goes across the board. The agenda goes across the board. That's
Ryan Rocco wasn't scared, and he's play-by-play. It wasn't even his job to say it. It was her job to say it. Mm-hmm. And then she said, in the same interview, she said, "Oh, I don't think the ref even saw it." And he was, even though he was 3 feet away, she even said that. Yeah, he was 3 feet away. I don't think he saw it. He was looking right at Caitlin Clark when it happened. You can see it on the camera. I'm sorry. Other than that, I really like her.
No. I mean,
that was insane.
Look, Doris Burke is doing men's ball. If Doris Burke was doing women's ball, I love her on it too. But some of these, like whenever you have the Drea Carters of the world on there, I'm like, oh my God, turn it off. I'll put it on mute. I don't want to hear her. No, they don't know what they're talking. They're it's like a shill factory for everything anti, you know, and so yeah, it grows tired to listen to, but you know,
anyone who didn't think Caitlin Clark should be in the Olympic team, I lost respect for.
They have no idea what they're talking about, and yet they try to, and they have no idea what they're talking about, and then they try to justify it.
Yeah, so let me give you an example and tell me why you think he did this. Dan Patrick. Very prestigious broadcaster. One of the greatest.
I loved him on SportsCenter with Keith Olbermann back in the day.
One of the greatest.
Back in the day, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann was the greatest thing ever to me.
Great broadcaster, smart guy. I wish I had his voice. Okay, so this is his view on the Olympic team. He said, "Well, do I think she's one of the top 12 players in the league right now? No. And do I think she should be on the team? No, because I've been talking to them, and they think she has to earn it." Okay, fine. That's what he said. But he said nothing. He said nothing about her accomplishments in college, nothing about the fact that they've always added the senior, if they were player of the year, onto the team. They've done it with 5 people. He said nothing about the obstacles that she got to start the season in terms of the schedule, the coach, the players, the refs, or anything like that. He said nothing. He said nothing that her numbers, he didn't point out his numbers were better than Dana Taurasi's. He didn't point out that Dan Taurasi didn't make the All-Pro team in 4 years, or that Chelsea Gray was injured and shouldn't even be on the team. He said none of that to qualify his thing. He just said, he didn't argue she should be on the team. After that, I lost respect for him. Is that too rough? I don't know.
No, because he had no idea what he was talking about.
He doesn't watch. I don't think he watches basketball.
He had no idea what he was talking about. See, right. It's really easy to take the company line. If you have no idea what you're talking about, you just agree. It's really easy. It's easier to agree. None of these people watch this. See, every time. That's why it's like it becomes painful, because you see guys like, you can see that Shannon Sharp actually does watch, and unlike Stephen A. Smith, who tries to play the role of a puppet on First Take, and where he tries to appease the women on the panel, Like, why is it now that women are on the NBA panels, but there are no men on WNBA panels? Explain that one. That's a problem in itself.
And why was it all until a month ago? Why was it 100% black women that did the halftime show and the first take interviews and the pregame show?
It's all
100% black women. 1/3 of the great women in the history of WNBA have been white, and they put 0 white women.
It's all agenda. It's all part of the agenda. But tell me again, like, why? So where I was going with it was, you have these guys, like, for example, Shannon Sharp. He's arguing she belongs on the Olympic team because she's busting their butts. Stephen A. Smith says it's about marketing.
No. Shannon Sharp didn't really make an argument that she should be on because of ability.
No, he did. Go back and watch. Go back and watch. I can't stand.
I remember he was arguing about marketing.
No, Stephen A. Smith was. Shannon Sharp has said she was busting their butts.
Give me a quote, because I've watched several things that he said, and every time
do you watch Club Shay or Night? Do you watch Nightcap with him and Ocho Cinco? He said that she was busting their butts. I got a video on it. I mean, I'll find it. I don't have it right now.
Saying, I heard. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. What I'm saying is I saw him discuss it on First Take with Stephen A. Smith 3 times, and he never said anything but marketing. And so here's and let's just assume that he didn't say it on Ocho Cinco show, and he just said it on First Take. Here's what the problem was with Stephen A. Smith and him is when they argued to the women that she should be on the show because marketing, they didn't argue she should be on the show because she's good enough. So when
Shannon Sharp did. I'm telling you, he did.
I'm just saying on the show on First Take.
He did on First Take.
Send me the clip because I heard him.
I'll find it for you. I'll send it to you. He lost his mind.
I'm saying
he was getting pissed off with Molly Curran because she's a panderer and she always goes anti. But Stephen A. Smith is too soft to get on there and sit here and say, yeah, she's better than all of them. And at the time when they made the decision, her overall numbers were better than all of them. And that's what makes them a whole joke. So Dan Patrick, I will sit here and say, Dan Patrick probably never watched one single game that she played in college or in the first half of the WNBA season, and just ran a company and ran with the company line. Had no clue, as is the case for most people.
Okay, until I see a clip on First Take, I'm going to go with that theory. Just let me finish my theory.
I'm going to look for it right now.
A couple months later, after Caitlin Clark was playing so great and blah, 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 they started trying to give the women a hard time for not wanting the Olympic team. And the problem is they weren't winning the argument very well was because they were just arguing marketing and not marketing plus the fact that she was good enough. And that was the mistake that I saw, especially Stephen A. Smith. I'll take your word for it.
Stephen A. Smith was just doing that marketing. He refused to say that she was better than the 12. And that was my problem with him. He looked like a flake because you don't have the balls to speak it, but you'll sit here and argue for days that Jordan's better than LeBron. I agree with that, by the way. But that's you'll argue that forever and ever. But you didn't take the you clearly not watched any of their games.
I don't think he watched a lot of women's basketball. Let's be honest.
Not at all.
I'm not a fan of Stephen A. Smith. I'm not a fan of Skip Bayless. I really dislike both of them, but they're very successful. But I dislike both of them. Shannon Sharp, he's okay with me. I don't like the other two. Shannon Sharp, I think, is good. I don't think he knows as much about basketball. He does about football, obviously. But he still seems to, like you said, I get the impression he was watching more than Stephen A. Smith or Dan Patrick or any of those other guys.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was definitely watching more than they were.
So I'm cool. I'm cool with that. But I think that the Olympic team scenario was 9 women and 1 guy that kept her off the team. And 1 woman who shouldn't even have to say, that was Dawn Staley. So
yeah. Why is Dawn Staley in that conversation?
She wasn't on the committee. So so here we did a video on this, and I called them the 10. I don't know. I call them the 10 evil witches, even though one was I don't know, it was a male witch. Yeah. Anyways, these are the 10 people I said kept her off the committee. Kept her off the team. The 6 people on the committee: Dawn Staley, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and Diana Taurasi. Those 10 people kept Caitlin Clark off the team. Would you agree with that?
I don't think those. Do they have power like Michael Jordan?
Oh, I'm sorry. And what's the coach? Cheryl Reeve.
Cheryl Reeve, who eventually was just in love with Caitlin Clark. by the time it was done?
Afterwards.
I don't know. I mean, the 5 people on the committee kept her off the team.
I think there were 6. There's 5 people plus the head of the committee.
6. Then I think that's 6 people on the committee kept her off the team.
They
I
voted.
mean, I don't think
Maybe not all of them.
I don't really care about the play. I'm sure the players did voice how they felt.
I'm sure they did.
I'm sure they voiced it. And rather than have the argument, they probably feel the same way just because they're all jealous. There's a jealousy factor.
So let me ask you this. Let's say Dawn Staley did have some say. I know she didn't vote on the committee, but she influenced the committee. Why do you think she didn't want Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team? If I'm assuming what I'm saying is
because Caitlin Clark busted her ass in the Final Four.
Exactly. And let me give you a quote.
And ruined her perfect season the year before that.
Right. That happened a year before. And notice she didn't compliment Caitlin Clark after she lost to Caitlin Clark, only after she beat Caitlin Clark.
Of course.
That shows you what type of person she is.
Of course. Yeah.
And I have a comment here from, let me just see if I have this, from Dawn Staley that took place in March of that year. So this is before she played in the WNBA. And let me just see it. Hang on one second. All right. It's going to be in my questions. One second. Hang on. Here we go. So I found the quote because I made a post on Facebook about this, that it was obvious to me that no matter how she played in the WNBA, they were going to keep her on the team. I mean, keep her off the team. That was obvious to me. And here's her quote from that time. And this was from March of 2024. Way before she played. It's unfortunate because we can't take a young player and have her take the spot of a veteran. We got to win. We're right behind the 8 ball with training, so we got to give head coach Cheryl Reeve the best 12 players. As for Clark specifically, who Staley has described as a generational player, she's going to get her time, and she's going to be just as special then. She decided before she played in the WNBA, no matter how well she played in those 10 games, she was going to push for her not to have on that team. You can just tell by the comment, right?
Yes, obviously. That comment even sounds more outrageous after the WNBA All-Stars beat the USA's ass in that All-Star game, and right. Caitlin Clark had 8 or 10 assists in that game, 10. Something like that. So, and she didn't even have to score to do it. So she had 10 assists. They whooped y'all tails, but you're coming with an argument of, oh, well, they're practicing already. Well, Chelsea Gray had missed 2 months. Some of those women hadn't practiced at all with each other in months. So it's all nonsense. But then she busted your tails with players that are perceived to be not as good as the ones that are on the Olympic team, but they're not. They're just as good, if not maybe better. And yeah, she busted y'all tails. So Dawn Staley's always been a fraud to me.
Let me give you 2 questions regarding that. You're the head of the committee and you get the only vote. And same 12 people are on the team, but you decided that Caitlin Clark needs to be on the team and you have to take only one person off. Who would you take off?
Diana Taurasi.
Okay. No problem with that. Let's say you decided, well, I got to take 2 people off, Chelsea Gray and Diana Taurasi. And I got to add 2 people on, and one of them has to be Caitlin Clark. Who's the other person you would add in the league? And you can assume Arike didn't withdraw her name. So you can include her in your thought process.
Kelsey Mitchell.
Kelsey Mitchell?
Yeah, Arike Ogunbowale, I've lost. I Unrivaled has spoken volumes about her game.
What about Nanike? What's her name? Nanike?
Nneka Ogwumike?
Yeah, Nneka Ogwumike. What about her?
Nah, she's not. If you're taking off 2 guards, yeah, I'm putting 2 guards.
Okay, well, I think they had more guards than they needed in the first place. They had almost 6 shooting guards on their team.
I don't think Nneka Ogwumike is long in the 2. She's 35 years old. I wouldn't even be wasting my time with them old people. Right. I mean, realistically, that's the same reason Diana Taurasi has no business on there. Like, what is this, a Lifetime Achievement Award? She barely played after the 3rd game. It was ridiculous.
Okay, so let's say they said to you, I want you to put a young player on there instead of Kelsey Mitchell, just for development purposes.
A young player.
Yeah, but still, talented. Not necessarily one of the top 12 players, maybe one of the top 15 or 20 players. Who would you put on? just for future, like so she's good for the next Olympics, but she still has to be one of the top, 15, 20.
Angel Reese.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would too. So for that reason. All right, I have a question for you. Angel Reese. Angel Reese, what do you think her maximum limit is? Second team All-Pro, first team All-Pro with MVP considerations, or MVP? What's her maximum upside in the
maximum
upside? What's the highest she'll ever do in this league in her best year? She already made the All-Star game, so I gave you the three.
Yeah, that's a popularity contest. That's not earned.
No, whatever. Yeah, but I gave you three choices. Which one? Because she's probably going to go.
So repeat it. I'm sorry. Repeat it.
Second team All-Pro, first team All-Pro with MVP considerations, because that's one of the 5 top players, or an MVP winner. What's her upside? Maximum she'll ever get in this league?
Probably first team All WNBA.
That's what I agree. I don't think she'll ever be an MVP, but I think she can make first team All MVP because she's too good a rebounder. And
if she just it's such a simple fix. If you raise your shooting percentage as a power forward big from 39% to not even 50% to 47%.
Right.
You're talking about you go from 13 a game to 22 a game. Now her rebounding will drop because she's not going to be catching some of her own shots like this. But let's say she's at 22 and 10. It's a first team All WNBA player.
I agree with you completely.
People might hate that, but it's reality. I mean, how many 22 and 10s are there in the WNBA? One, Asia Wilson.
Okay. So I've heard other podcasters evaluate her defense. Now, this was early in the year, early mid-year. Chicks Dig Scar podcast said she can't defend. Mick Talks Hoop says she's a great defender. Adrian seems to indicate that she's okay or a little bit average or a little bit better. Someone said she's an elite defender recently. Tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, or just tell me how good a defender you think she was when the season ended.
She wasn't a great defender. That's nonsense. She's not an elite defender.
I agree with you. I just want to know what you think.
Maybe a 4 or 5. She's mid-level.
Adrian,
she's not a terrible defender, but she's not an elite defender. That's utterly ridiculous. I mean, people, again, you have to watch them play. I actually see people when they come at me and they tell, like, I don't get involved in stuff if I don't go all in on stuff. If you asked me questions about the WNBA a year ago, I wouldn't have any freaking idea what you're talking about. I subscribed to League Pass. I watched other games besides Indiana. I watched a lot of Chicago games. I watched other teams play. She's too handsy. Her balance is awful. Yeah, she doesn't slide her feet. She's awkward, she's awkward. She's clumsy. She's not really athletic.
I know.
I mean, this is something that Jason Whitlock said, that she's like the most unathletic player he's seen. I wouldn't go that far, but if you look at her run, her gait is awful. It looks like she's going to fall over while she's running.
I think she had a leg injury. She
had a leg. Apparently, she has a rod in her leg. But you know what? That's life. That's life. But at the same time, her balance is terrible. Like, she'll start dribbling the ball, and then all of a sudden, because she has no balance. So she's a 4 or 5 on the defensive end. She's definitely not even close for elite. That's for sure.
I agree with you. I think she's an average defender, and I was surprised by people saying she was an elite defender. Adrian Ross didn't say that. Some Mick Talks Hoops said that, and other people said it in the media and stuff like that. And I'm seeing something different, especially early in the year. She had like no blocks for the first 20 games. Caitlin Clark had 3 times as many blocks as her, and she doesn't play underneath the basket. So anyways, that's age. They had some other questions having to do with that, but also there was another Michael Wilbon on Pardon the Interruption did not think Caitlin Clark should be in the Olympic team. And I was surprised because pardon me? He's
company line. He's never watched her play.
He's in Chicago. Well, supposedly like he was watching her play, but I don't believe it.
No, he wasn't.
I
don't believe any of them. I don't believe any. Why? Because they never talk about it on their shows.
Right.
They never talk about it. So if you don't, how can you talk about something you don't watch? So there's a reason that Stephen A. Smith. You watch baseball at all?
Just the
last year at one point he said that Aaron Judge was protected by Juan Soto in the lineup because Aaron Judge hit in front of Juan Soto in the lineup when it was actually the complete opposite. That Aaron Judge hit third all year and Soto hit second. Right. And Stephen A. Smith says on First Take that Aaron Judge was protected by Juan Soto when in fact it was Aaron Judge who was protecting Juan Soto.
All right, I have another question for you. Generally, Angel Reese was seen as the second best rookie last year. We'll just assume that's true for this moment. Who do you think will be the second best second-year player this year? Will it be Angel Reese or some of the players who were behind her?
Rickea Jackson.
Rickea Jackson will be the second best second-year player.
Rickea Jackson.
And I think it's Rickea, but
Rickea, whatever.
Do you think Rickea Jackson will have the best career of all the second-year players except for Caitlin Clark?
She's more skilled than all of them.
Right.
She's more skilled. Are we basing this on basketball? Or are we basing this on all the other crap? I mean, because
on basketball.
Basketball, yeah.
Not who the media thinks is second best.
She's the most skilled. She's the most skilled. The other rookie, she's the other rookie that's skilled. Cam Brink is a defensive player. Rickea Jackson is showing range shooting the ball.
What about Camila Cardozo or Angel Reese? Who's going to have a better career?
If they're both stuck in Chicago, Angel Reese, because they're going to destroy Camila Cardozo.
Yeah, okay.
Camila Cardozo needs to be gone. She needs to leave. She needs to be out of there.
She needs to be away from Angel Reese. I agree.
You can't coexist with the two of them because unless Angel Reese is finally going to defer and move over to the dunker position, which she can't dunk, but the dunker position off the ball and or play the high post and dump it into Camila Cardozo. I mean, it's obvious who the better post player is.
Yeah, well, she shoots 50% as opposed to 40%.
I mean, 10% is 10%. It's like, and she's stronger. She's bigger. She's 6'7". Like you're keeping the 6'7" monster. Let's be. South Carolina won the national championship because of Camila Cardozo.
Oh, I know. And if you go and look at those games during the double streak, she was taking Cardozo out so that Angel Reese would get more rebounds. It's unbelievable. She was playing like 15, 20 minutes sometimes when Angel Reese was playing 35 when she's at least as good as Angel Reese. It was unbelievable.
That was chasing the streak.
Yeah, that's why Teresa Witherspoon's a terrible coach.
That's why she has no job now.
Yeah, she should have been fired. It's unbelievable that after Kennedy Carter did what she did, she didn't say anything. She didn't criticize it. She didn't say anything until the next day after a lawyer or someone in public relations wrote her an apology.
There's a video. I mean, if you look at the video of it for everyone that saw it, I mean, Angel Reese jumped up, clapping it up like, yeah. I mean, Teresa Witherspoon said nothing, and then other players were like, yeah, and other coaches were like, yeah. So they were all cheering it on. They were all part of it. Like they're none of them had a problem. They all loved what she did. That's why they're all fake. I mean, I can go on my Kennedy Carter soliloquy if you want to, because what's happening with Kennedy Carter, the way she's been blackballed from this league is bananas to me. But I'm not gonna. Other people might not like it because,
well,
if there were 16 teams, Kennedy Carter would be in the league.
Ben Daniels' podcast has done 2 videos on the fact that Kennedy Carter should be in the league right now, and that he's disappointed she's not.
I agree with him.
I would not want her on my team. That doesn't mean she shouldn't be in the league.
I would
want her on my team.
I love her. I mean, I love her, but that's my opinion. I think Connecticut should do. I think Connecticut should give Marina Mabrey what she wants, trade her to the worst team in the league, and sign Kennedy Carter.
Yeah, I wouldn't want her on my team. That doesn't mean I don't think she should be not in the league. I just wouldn't hire her for my team.
Dennis Rodman was wanted by Michael Jordan, and Dennis Rodman was a psychopath.
Well, that's because they lost Horace Grant and they needed a replacement.
But you had a lot of power forwards you could have gone to. You need to go to the one who's unhinged.
Was there anybody there wasn't anybody that was a free agent that was as good as Rodman at the time?
Again, you're picking winning over sanity. Rodman, there were times where Jordan had to go to Rodman's hotel to wake him up because he slept in a hotel across the street from the arena. And he would be drunk or high and all these things. He'd drag him to practice. You do what you gotta do to win. That's the difference between the NBA back in the day and the WNBA.
That's fine. I draw the line. She's too far for me. I think she's got mental issues.
Why? Because the old guard told us this?
No, I've read about what she did, and I've seen what she did. I also saw her basically attack Marina Mabrey by hacking her in the head on purpose just because she has to get traded off a team, and that was an intentional foul. She's a mental case.
And Marina Mabrey tomahawk chopped Caitlin Clark across the throat, and they get a foul call on her.
I understand, but
Marina Mabrey's been on 5 teams in 6 years.
I'm not saying Marina, she's a saint, but that doesn't justify the hit in the head for no reason. It doesn't justify the 2 times she got thrown out of the league. She went over to Europe, and she got suspended in Europe too.
Did you see my video showing Courtney Williams getting into a savage fight in front of
I didn't see it in yours. I saw it on Ben Daniels' podcast.
Well, why did she get forgiven?
What did she do it? Did she do it inside the
She's
league?
The one. No, if that was an NBA player, they'd be suspended for the next half of the season.
I'm not disagreeing with that part, but she didn't do it to her teammates.
And that actually happened with 2 teammates with her at a food truck with people half their size, and that was before the incident that she had with Kennedy Carter. And you think that personality that you've seen from Courtney Williams,
I'm sure she was part of the problem.
Was a, hey, Kennedy, would you please cheer because I know you're upset because of your playing time. No. If we're gonna be honest about how we're gonna treat people, let's be honest about it. And then yes, Kennedy Carter got issues. Cool. I'm not saying she doesn't, but there's been a narrative created. Maybe these women don't like her. Maybe because she just wants the ball. Why did they not like Caitlin Clark? There's certain issues with these ladies in the league that they all need some type of therapy. Because then you send her over she goes to the Sparks. Derek Fisher wanted her. He also had Liz Cambage, and Liz Cambage quit the team because the guards did not pass her the ball well enough in the post. And then Liz Cambage, who has a history of lunacy, people believe Liz Cambage over. And now she's on OnlyFans.
I will say this about Kennedy Carter. When that streak was going on, they wanted the ball passed to Angel Reese, and she refused to pass her in the post because wasn't basketball to her because the game was over with.
You remember that game? Marina Mabrey, who didn't like it, Marina passed her the ball. She passes to Mabrey
for a trade.
Yeah, and then she wants out. Marina Mabrey's a lunatic also.
I don't want her on my team either. I'm not even saying I want her on my team.
There are a lot of Indiana fans that sure as heck did.
I don't want her on my team. I don't want Kennedy Carter on my team. And who was the woman that we just talked about that got in the fight? I wouldn't want her on my team.
Courtney Williams?
I don't want her on my team either.
Courtney Williams? Courtney Williams has forced her way out of multiple situations. She has a coach, GM, who said she's a traitor, basically. After they defended her, she got into another fight the year before that with another teammate. They dumped that teammate. So it's like the league is interesting in how they operate. That's all. I don't know it all, but I know that if you go down the timeline of this stuff, it's a little weird.
Well, there's a difference between saying I don't want her on my team than saying she shouldn't be in the league at all. I think all of them should be in the league, and maybe it should have been suspended or whatever for that fight. She should have got suspended or whatever. But that doesn't mean I just don't want them on my team.
The Chicago Sky just traded their 3rd pick for Ariel Atkins to be a 1-year player. And they had Kennedy Carter, and they could have just kept
best player.
Their best player, kept her for 1 year, and then wait for the CBA, and then see what happens. You have a new coach. WNBA is weird, man. It's one of the things that there are so many ass clowns in the NBA that are 1,000 times worse than anything I've ever heard involving Kennedy Carter. 1,000 times worse. I mean, Bill Laimbeer.
Well, Bill. Okay, don't give me. Okay, I did a short video on him, and and
I loved Bill Laimbeer as a kid.
You did?
I loved him. I hated him when he been in jail. I grew up a Celtics fan. After but I hated the Lakers. So when the Detroit Pistons played the Lakers, I wanted Detroit to beat the brakes off the Lakers. I just love the fact that this guy, he wasn't afraid of it. He would fight for everybody. He didn't care. He was the thing that I want Aliyah Boston to be. He was that guy, that enforcer. You're not playing with my guys.
He was dirty though. He was dirty. And that I don't like dirty players. I don't mind physical players. I don't like dirty players. I'm sorry. He was dirty. And he should have been arrested.
So was Rodman.
He actually tried to hurt the guy when he drove him to the basket. Rodman wasn't quite like that.
They all did. That was the Detroit Pistons book. They all put them on their back and break them. That was Chuck Daly.
Joe Dumars wasn't that bad. So he played tight defense, but he didn't hack the guy's head.
Not a big. The bigs did that. That was Rick Mahorn, John Sally. They're all dirty. Just like in Miami Heat. He was dirty.
Mahorn was dirty too.
They were all dirty. All of them.
We did a video on. It's a short. I'm going to try to find it for you. It was a video on. It's the funniest short that we did. It was on. What's his name? Bill Laimbeer. Let's see. Here we go. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. Okay. Okay. So. Here it is. I got a preset. Share screen. Okay. So we were talking about the Hall of Fame, like what players should be on the Hall of Fame. And then beginning, I don't want to rewind it. Rob says to me, is Bill Laimbeer in the Hall of Fame? And this was our video. No. Bill Laimbeer isn't though.
You think you'll ever get into the
Hall of Fame of athletes who are criminals? That's what Bill Laimbeer is in. Hall of Fame athletes and criminals.
Most likely.
He's in the Hall of Fame for most assaults without getting arrested.
Right, exactly.
Bill Laimbeer's in.
Most likely to be arrested if he was on the street. Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah, Bill Laimbeer should not be a free man.
Is Bill Laimbeer in the Hall of Fame?
No. Bill Laimbeer isn't though.
You think you'll ever get into?
So that you want to hear a funny story? You want to hear a funny story about Bill Laimbeer?
Sure.
He is a 3-time WNBA championship coach.
Yeah, in WNBA, I know he came to the. I know that.
For the Detroit Shock, he won 3 championships in
a short amount of years too, right?
In 6 years.
Yeah, in 6 years.
And he went to 4 in 6 years.
Right. So
he went to 5 actually because he went there as the coach of the Aces when they went 18-4 in 2020.
He was a trailblazer.
He coached A'ja Wilson.
Right. He was a trailblazer for 3-point shooting for a big man too.
He was.
He was one of the first ones. And I'm not saying he wasn't a good player. I just think he was very dirty. I think the best thing about Bill Laimbeer is they forced the NBA to get the flagrant 1 and flagrant 2 rules, so he couldn't do crap like that. That's the best thing about Bill Laimbeer.
Think about this. Bill Laimbeer was, like I said, he's a criminal in your mind.
Yes, he's a criminal.
He coached the Las Vegas Aces.
That's not the rules.
He coached the Las Vegas Aces for 4 years. He got them in 18. They were 14-20. He went 21-13, lost in the conference finals, went 18-4, lost in the WNBA finals, went 24-8, lost in the conference finals, and they replaced him with Becky Hammon. And as Ben Daniel just posted up, and she gets all the credit.
And he built the franchise.
And he built the damn team. She gets all the credit. He took them to 2 conference finals. I mean, does A'ja Wilson like Bill Laimbeer? I gotta wonder.
I want to ask you this because I didn't watch. I watched very rarely back then. Were his teams more physical than the average WNBA team?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched them back in the day. Yeah, he was a physical coach.
Right.
He's a physical guy.
It doesn't surprise me. I just assumed they were, and
I'm going to presume that the man was his final record 306 and 215.
Is that what
yeah, I'm reading it.
I wonder why he stopped coaching. It's only 6 years. He was still pretty young.
He's 67. Maybe he's tired.
Oh, was he 67 when he stopped coaching?
He's 67 now. Well, he probably let's see. Why did he leave the Aces? They probably fired him.
Championships in 6 years?
No, he retired. Yeah. He retired, it says. So he retired from coaching at 64. He retired.
Was he 64?
64. That was 3 years ago.
Oh, he stopped. I thought he stopped coaching
21
3 years ago.
2021.
I'm not looking at the stats.
Yeah,
okay.
He coached A'ja Wilson for 4 seasons.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Does A'ja Wilson like him? Becky Hammon gets all the credit for this because she coached with Popovich in San Antonio. Why doesn't Bill Laimbeer get recognized? You know what's funny is most people do recognize that Mark Jackson is the reason that the Splash Brothers did what they did. Most basketball people recognize him over Steve Kerr.
For some reason, they
don't recognize.
And they took him away just as the team was getting better.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and I don't know why they fired him. He seems stubborn to me.
He's a tough personality. He's a tough personality.
He's got a stubborn personality. I think
that's personality. It's not. Yeah.
That's not always conducive to coaching in today's world.
Not with these marshmallows today. Come on.
I agree with that part.
Yeah.
I have. Let me see if I have any questions.
If you had all, I guess you guys were doing a Q&A on Hall of Fame guys. Don't even get me started on the NBA the Basketball Hall of Fame is an embarrassment. It's become a freaking Hall of players, not Hall of Fame of elite.
Yeah, it was early. It was right after they announced the finalists for this year, and I read an interesting article that there's good arguments that other people besides Michael Cooper should have been nominated, and a person went up and what? You don't think
Michael Cooper has no business in the Hall of Fame.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And I wrote a good article and he came up with some names. So I started looking up people that weren't nominated that were at the top of the list that should have been nominated instead of him. And that's what we were doing. We were going through that list and talking about that Michael Cooper shouldn't be on the team. I said I read a good article that said he shouldn't be on it. And he went to people, I don't know, like Marcus Johnson or something, people like that.
You want a name of a guy that I think has no business in the Hall of Fame?
Who's that?
Manu Ginobili.
Oh, no.
Manu Ginobili. Yeah, Manu Ginobili was the third or fourth best player in his team for his entire career.
I thought that was real iffy. I think he got some international.
Consider the fact, which is a joke. Like you're playing against second tier. It's like playing. That's like going to the Baseball Hall of Fame and you play AAA for most of your career. Like you're getting credit for you're getting credit for AAA baseball. So you had 40 homers for 6 years in AAA, and then you came to the majors and you had 20. Like that was the equivalent to me.
I was surprised he got on there.
Yeah, and I had people telling me you're crazy. He's one of the greatest ever. I'm like, what are you talking about? Glenn Rice is not in the Hall of Fame, and I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I grew up a big time Glenn Rice fan. He's a career 18-5-5. It's one of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time. But because he did win a ring with Shaq and Kobe as a third option.
You're saying he does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
He does not. So, but he's better than Manu ever was. Glenn Rice was a number one option in Charlotte for like 4 years, averaged 26 a game back when scoring was hard,
Okay. Rapid fire.
Yeah.
Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan.
LeBron or Kobe?
It's hard. LeBron.
Okay. If you said Kobe, we'd have to have a discussion.
No, it's really on the fence for me with those two.
I understand it might be close in your mind, but it's not that close in my mind.
Kobe won 2 rings with Paul Gasol, and LeBron won with guys that are way better than Paul Gasol.
I just don't think he made his teammates better, except for like 1 or 2 years. Magic or Bird?
I don't think LeBron makes any of his star teammates better. He makes them worse. I'm a Heat fan. I watched Chris Bosh stand in the corner for 4 years. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Magic or Bird?
Bird.
Pardon me?
Bird.
Okay. Rank in order: Jabbar, Russell, and Chamberlain.
Jabbar, Chamberlain, Russell.
Okay, I got Jabbar, Russell, Chamberlain. I'll tell you why I have Russell ahead of Chamberlain, even though I think Chamberlain's obviously more talented. If you took Bill Russell and stuck him on the same teams that Will Chamberlain played on, and you took Will Chamberlain, took him on the same teams that Bill Russell played on, Bill Russell's number of championships would be greater than the number of championships that Will Chamberlain had with those same teams. And the number of teams, the Celtics championships that Celtics would when Will Chamberlain would have been fewer. That's a really fair comparison. It was the exact same order, the exact same position. That shows me. I can't prove that's what would happen.
That's an opinion, obviously.
And I understand.
You can't prove that.
That tells me in my mind, because I think that's really what would happen, that Bill Russell has the edge. And I understand that it looks like Chamberlain's the better player statistically, but that doesn't mean he's the better player for a team. Jabbar, I think, had a little bit of weaknesses with his defense and his toughness underneath the basket and some of his rebounding. But other than that, I think he did what the team needed in order for them to win. And that's why I thought he was. But I started watching basketball because of him. And I have him as the third greatest basketball player of all time after Jordan and LeBron.
Well, you know who I have as the number 2 player of all time?
Who do you have?
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird. Okay.
I think Larry Bird, if it's not for Michael Jordan, is the greatest player ever. He did everything.
He did
everything. If his back did not get hurt.
Yeah. Oh my God. He hurt his back 2/3 of the way through his career. So I'm going to agree with you. Like I think that hurt him because he was the 3-time MVP 3 years in a row, and he deserved every year he won it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love Larry Bird. Don't get me. My brothers
like as good as the Celtics were, the Lakers were so much better.
All right.
Like talent for talent.
You ready? Another one?
You go for it.
Olajuwon or Shaq?
God, this one kills me because I remember what Hakeem did to Shaq. Oh, Shaq.
Okay. I keep switching back and forth on this one. That's why
I look back at 1995, and how Olajuwon gave Shaq the business, and even Shaq said that Olajuwon taught him how to play basketball, basically.
Durant or Curry?
Curry.
Okay. All right. Let's see who else. Would you put Isaiah Thomas as one of the top 25 players of all time?
No.
Dwayne Wade, would you put him in the top 25?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think he's in the top 25, but I think he's close. I put him like around top 30. But
I don't respect the guys of today's game.
Yeah, but when I made my rankings, I did a whole video on top 25 greatest players of all time. I have a website called ultimaterankings.com, and I have all sorts of rankings and videos. And I did one on baseball too. And I did top 25 players. When I did my rankings, I included some older players that other people just left off. I put Bob Pettit like number 22, and I put George Mikan number 25, just because I felt he should be in the top 25, even though he played in an era where the competition wasn't as stiff. So there's some people that had to be left out of the top 25 because I included some older players that other people wouldn't have included, especially younger people. So that was my ranking. And okay, where would you put Allen Iverson all time? Like in top 20, 50, 30, 40, 50?
Top 50.
And no higher than that?
Okay. Allen Iverson was a volume player. I mean, he was incredible for what he was.
Well, I agree with you. I put him like around 40.
He's just all volume. It's, he took 28 shots a game in certain seasons. Like that's just, and shot 42%. Like that's, I value efficiency. I value a lot of things that other people may not value. That's why everyone has an opinion. Like it's hard for me to rank a guy who played 1950. It wasn't a lie, obviously.
I understand that. Those are harder ranks.
It's hard to rank those guys. I'm
trying to do mostly modern.
But when I look at like even the guys of, there was a point where Dwayne Wade was the best player in the world, and that's what I think people ignore. He was the best player in the world for probably 2 years. His peak was. I think he was Finals MVP.
Yeah, but that's not.
He was the best. He was better than LeBron James at that time.
He never came in higher than third in the MVP voting.
That's a popularity contest. He should have won it at least once.
I don't know.
I don't. Steve Nash won it over Shaq one year, and Shaq was way better than him that year. Shaq got the "I'm a small white dude" vote.
The second year he won it.
Which was the first year when Shaq was in Miami. Shaq was the MVP of the league, in my opinion. And it's not because he was in Miami, but that first year in Miami, Shaq was a monster.
Kobe won one MVP. Do you think he should have won more?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Michael Jordan won 5. Do you think he should have won more?
Absolutely.
I think he should have won 9.
He should have probably won it every single year from 1989 to 88.
He should have won every year.
1996.
He should have won every year in the league, starting with his 4th year in the league, and maybe his 3rd when he came in second to Magic. But I thought
I wouldn't have given it to him over Bird.
No, that was but Bird. Yeah, but Bird, that was before that.
You're looking at what, 88? I'm looking at like 88 and on.
No, that was before that.
Jordan was the best player in the world for. I mean, he was the best player in the world according to Bobby Knight, but I mean, he should have won 9.
Well, he said he was the most talented.
Like player. When he got when Karl Malone won the MVP over him, and when Barkley won the MVP over him, like
it was stupid. Even when Magic won it after Jordan had established himself as the best player ever, like in his 4th season, that was his 4th year in the league was at a higher level than any player had ever played up to that point.
Was that the year he averaged 37 a game or something like that?
No, that was the year that he came in second, and he actually went down to like 33 that year, but he was all defensive player, and his shooting percentage went up from 49 to 54%, and he was more efficient. Everything, yeah, that was his 4th year in the league, and yeah, that was the best. That was the best year I'd ever seen a player play up to that point. And he was the best player in the league from that moment on, and he should have won every PA because he was clearly the best player.
Like I remember 1997 playing the Chicago Bulls in the playoffs as a Heat fan in the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're like, I hope we win a game. I hope we win a game. Like that's like he was petrifying.
Yeah,
and I've never felt that watching LeBron James play as a fan. As a fan, I've never felt utterly petrified to have my team play a player. Like when LeBron left Miami, he never played in Miami initially because he knew he would lose. And he did lose.
Right. Well,
when he did play down here. And
I will say, I will defend LeBron in this circumstance. And I think this one free agent signing had more influence, or lack of free agent signing had more influence than anything I can think of in recent years. So Carlos Boozer was a third year, going to his 3rd year. He was the second. It was in his 2nd year. I think he was runner-up in most improved player. And Paul Silas, and he wanted some money for, I don't know if it was an option year for the 3rd year. I don't know why he only had a 3-year contract, whatever. Yeah. He wouldn't give it to him. He went over someplace else, and he turned out to be a 2-time All-Star, and he was a 15-10.
In Utah, right? In Utah. In Utah, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In Utah, yeah.
Yeah. And during that whole time that LeBron was in Cleveland, they never put a good player with him that was a top 25 player. Never. And if they had just kept him, they would have won a couple championships in Cleveland with Carlos Boozer. That's all he needed to push him over the edge. He wasn't that far off winning a championship with those Cleveland teams. He could have won a couple with them, and he might have never left Cleveland. And people pick on him for leaving, but the ownership did a poor job of surrounding him with players. They couldn't get a top 25 players. He was LeBron James, for heaven's sakes.
I don't blame him. I mean, I don't blame him for leaving. I don't blame him for anything that he does. I blame him for how he does things. Like you leave,
I agree with that.
Leave, but it's the way he leaves. And he does it strategically because he wants to hurt that team. That's why he's doing it that way. He wants to hurt them. And that's my belief. He wants to leave them in a lurch where like, oh, they're screwed now. Like when he left Miami in such a pickle with the Bosh and D Wade thing. Like no one knew. Dwayne Wade, who's one of his best friends, did not know that he was bailing out the night before. And that to me tells you who he is. Like you're gonna let your guy know, like, look, I'm out. And then at least he can negotiate and not lose a whole bunch of money like he did in that situation with the Heat. And I believe, and this is my opinion, if Chris Bosh doesn't have blood clots, all those finals that LeBron went to, I think that Miami Heat and Cavs would have had some monster series in the playoffs because Chris Bosh was in his prime, and it's hard. There's a mental thing when you play a guy that you know so well. You know, Wade, when he was head-to-head with LeBron, they were virtually they were pretty close all time, but I think that wouldn't have been it. Like they wouldn't have had walkovers into the finals like they did for so many years, even with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. I would have taken Miami, especially that first year. That first year, I think would have been really hard for LeBron. And I don't think the way he left Cleveland the way he left Cleveland, I thought like he did him dirty. And then you go back, like the guy called you all kinds of names, and you go back, like that's just, oh no. And then he left him again. I wish he had stayed in Cleveland for the rest of his career, personally.
I have another quick question for you. Barkley or
Barkley.
Or Malone.
Or Malone. Barkley.
Not Moses Malone, but
Karl Malone. Barkley.
Barkley? Okay. I have Malone by a little bit.
Who you say better or who I like? I love Charles Barkley. I thought he was more.
Who's better? Who's better? Would you rather have a team?
Player.
If you were ranking the top 25 players of all time, which one would you rank higher? That's the question.
All time. Oh, yeah, I guess you rank Malone higher because he had better numbers at the end of the day. Marlon Hill, if you're going to leave because we're talking about NBA, sorry, man. I mean, it's like, I read comments like
I have a WNBA question. Have you watched much WNBA over the last, besides this year, over the last 27 years before that?
Yeah, no, I watched everything early on. Like I watched all of Cynthia Cooper and Swoops and
fine. Here's a question for you. Give me the top 5 players of all time in order in the WNBA, since they want WNBA question.
I would tell you Caitlin Clark right now. I think is the best
player. She will be the best player of all time.
To me,
I'm going to write it down.
Maya Moore.
Maya Moore's first?
Maya Moore.
In order.
Maya Moore. I think, God, the thing about Cynthia Cooper is she played only like 5 years.
It's tough to rank her.
Like, it's so hard, but she won every year. She was the best. Cheryl Swoops.
So is Cynthia Cooper 2?
Cynthia, it's hard to rank her because she only played like 5 years. Like,
I know it's tough. That's why
Cynthia Cooper. I'm gonna go Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie. Actually, no, flip that. Sorry, no, let's go back. Maya Moore, Diana Taurasi, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie.
Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops,
and Lisa Leslie.
Okay, I can't put Diana.
Maybe I got Candace Parker in there.
Yeah, I can't. Diana Taurasi to me is not a better player than Candace Parker, and you got her second. So
I'm looking at her career. She's still playing. She's been playing for 20 years.
Okay, how many MVP awards does she win? 1.
You already know that, but come on. You know that there's a bias in these women in this thing for
okay.
Bigs.
All right. Let's put it this way: how many all-defensive teams did she make? 0.
You really value defense in basketball today, huh?
No, not as much as Rob. Rob values it even more.
I don't. If we could go back to 90s style basketball where people got into fist fights, I'd love it. But what they call defense today is not defense. I think Candace Parker was a great player, but
So you have this is or I have.
I think about the fact that she played with Lisa Leslie as a rookie.
Yeah, Lisa Leslie was.
She got gifted.
Prime, but that's the reason she was able to win Rookie of the Year because Lisa Leslie took all the pressure off her. She didn't have what Caitlin Clark had.
She was MVP her rookie year because
I know she
of that.
Was.
Like that's
Maya Moore.
Like imagine if you gave freaking Caitlin Clark that as a rookie.
Oh, I know. I've said that to people. That
and defensive and Charlie here just posted something. Defensive teams are popularity contests. I agree with him. They're more popularity contests than all WNBA. Or all NBA because that's largely statistics. That's largely stats. Like you can't avoid a guy with every 35 a game and say, "Oh, he's not all NBA." But defense is a very, very subjective type of opinion.
Look, this is the order I have from you now. Maya Moore, Diana Taurasi, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker. Those are your top 6.
Yeah.
Elena Deladonna and Lauren Jackson. Lauren Jackson did 3 MVPs, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I didn't watch that much. I mean, you're asking.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying.
I got off my head. I mean, Laura Jackson. Elena Deladon was a really good player. Yeah, no, but she played what? She played 10 years. She won 2 MVPs.
Yeah, I have some. No, it's not it. Hang on. I have some stats from that. But
you want to hear something funny? Her best season was pretty much what Caitlin Clark's rookie season was.
What, Lauren Jackson?
No, Elena Deladon's was slightly better than Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Which I find always funny because people can make these comparisons. Let me look at Lauren Jackson. I remember the Australian player.
Well,
19.
I just don't think Diana Taurasi had a long career, but I don't think she was that elite to be the best or second best player of all time. That's just my problem with putting her up there that high. I think Lisa Leslie had a way more successful career, way more MVPs and MVP placements than Diana Taurasi, which shows me that she was one of the elite people in the league for a much longer time than Diana Taurasi.
Diana Taurasi is an 09 MVP, 3-time champion, 04 Rookie of the Year, 5-time scoring champion, 14 times All WNBA, 2-time Final MVP. She's pretty good.
No,
she's pretty good, and she finished in the top 5 in MVP voting once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
So let me
and she has seasons of 25-3, 24, 22-6, 21-6. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of Diana Taurasi on a personal level. I don't like her.
I hate her.
I don't like her, but that's probably also clouding you, jading you.
Right. Well, I personally hate her a lot. But
I'm sorry.
I do. I think she's a despicable person. And
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I hate her. I just don't like her as a person. But that doesn't mean I still think she's a great player. And I think it's amazing what she's done, but she didn't belong in the Olympic team.
Well, this year, absolutely not. She didn't belong in the last two.
Well, it was unclear. She was still an All-Pro in 2020. And so I don't have a problem with the last Olympics. That's only 1 year removed from an All-Pro team. But I had a real problem with it this year. She wasn't close to one of the top.
This year was embarrassing.
She was averaging 1.1 assists when Caitlin Clark was not chosen for the team.
Just look at this as an example. I mean, look, Candace Parker won 2 MVPs. Her MVP seasons were worse than Caitlin Clark's rookie year.
Yeah,
both of them. Like,
sure, and I lost it. God damn, oops.
And then she wins Defensive Player of the Year playing in Vegas in 2020.
Yeah,
averaging 14-7 and 9-7, makes first team All WNBA, averaging 15 and 10.
Right. So
popularity contest.
I didn't watch much WNBA, so I find it hard to rank them. However, what I did do is I made a chart, and I can't find it right now. I thought it was right in my pile. And I made a chart of all the players, and I figured out how many championships they had, finals MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, how many MVPs, how many MVP shares they had, how many All-Stars, how many times they led the league in scoring, assists, rebounds. And I put a chart up there just to get an idea on how each of the players were.
Well, listen to this comment right here. This is from Charlie Boxing. Rookie MVP for Candace Parker. It was a fan vote.
No, it was 25% fan vote. That's not true. It was 25%. I looked it up.
Okay, so 25%. If Caitlin Clark had 25% of the fan vote, she wins MVP this year.
I don't know. She was pretty far behind.
She would have won it by a mile. She would have won the fan vote by a mile.
No, she would have won. No, she would have won the fan vote by a mile. But they only counted the fan vote 25% of the MVP voting.
I'm saying 25%. If we're basing it on percentages of how much you win by, not just that you won. Okay, you're 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Like if I got 800,000 fan votes, you got 80,000 fan votes. How is that comparable to having 20 media votes to 10 media votes?
Right.
I mean, I'm using just like.
I get it.
Accounting numbers, I guess.
That's the only year they did it, and it was only 25% of the vote. So what I did, Rudy, is I said, okay, you can't just count MVPs because sometimes people come in second, third, fourth, and fifth and all that. So what I did is I gave them 5 points for an MVP, 3 points for coming in second, 2 points for coming in third, and 1 point for coming in fourth. And Lisa Leslie had the most MVP shares of anybody, including 3 MVPs, by a pretty good margin. That doesn't mean she was the best player all the time. It was just gave me another factor to look at.
You know what's funny is I know Lisa Leslie was good, but I never thought she was like.
She looked dominant in the Olympics whenever I watched, but it's because the competition was so bad, I guess.
I never thought of her as the best player in the league, and she won MVP 3 times. I mean,
right. So did Lauren Jackson, I think. So and so did
like winning MVP in the WNBA is funny. Like you average 18 points, you win an MVP. That's like it's crazy. Like,
I don't like Cheryl Swoops, but she was a great player. She was a great player in college. She was a great player in the pro. She was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, and 3-time MVP. So that's saying a lot. She could play offense. She could play defense. And so it's too bad that she's ruined her own reputation by being so racist against Caitlin Clark, because really that's all it is racism. There's really no other reason for her to dislike Caitlin Clark other than the fact that she's upset because she's making a lot of money and Cheryl Swoops didn't make any money in her career because she was too early in the WNBA when they weren't making any money.
They're all upset about it.
They're all upset about that, right?
All upset about that.
And in fact, every time I say it, I got to say jealous and envious, because otherwise someone say, "Oh, you don't know what the words mean." I go, "I know what they mean. They're jealous and envious of Caitlin Clark. I've looked them up. I've looked the words up. I know what they mean." People correct you on that. If you just say jealousy, they go, "Oh no, they're envious of them." No, they're both.
Someone just asked, Aunt Asia is in that conversation, no, for top 5 of all time.
She will be when her career
could be. She could be.
Yeah, I dislike Asia Wilson immensely, but she will be one of the top 5 players of all time. But Caitlin Clark will be better than her by the end of this year. By the end of this year, she'll be back in. Stephanie White will make Caitlin Clark the best player in the league by the end of the year. She will hone her on defense. She'll turn back the turnovers. She'll make the offense so good that her offense will even be better than it was last year. And she was already the best offensive player in the league. Mm-hmm. I think the MVP odds are wrong. I think Caitlin Clark should be favored. Nafisa Collier should be second.
Mm-hmm. And I agree.
Wilson should be third. And then after that, I don't really care. Okay, how about we didn't get to this? This was a good question. We didn't run out of time. Did you seen? I'll pull this up for you just so you know. This is the odds for championships, and I'll pull this up just so we have it in front of us, so the people watching can look at it.
If Indiana doesn't win the championship, it's an utter failure.
Okay, we're gonna get to that. I am not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Utter failure.
I just want to put it up on the screen for the people at home, as they say. All right. Okay. So here's what the odds are, and you can see there's 3 of them, but it's pretty much the same. So New York, Las Vegas, Minnesota.
Plus 450?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna drop $1,000 on Indiana.
I know.
I might drop more than that.
Phoenix. Yeah. All right. So my question is, how ridiculous is this? And how would you say the odds? What do you think the odds should be? Who are your top 5 teams in order?
Indiana, Minnesota.
I want to write down. Indiana,
Minnesota, New York, LA, and Atlanta. No. Who do I have 5th? It's going to be Indiana, Minnesota, New York, LA.
You don't like Phoenix then?
No, I had. See, I had my rankings I had a power ranking. I had Vegas 8th because I think they're going to be.
I actually think I watched part of that video.
Yeah, I have them 8th, and people thought I was crazy, but I explained why, and people still think I'm wrong. Well, we'll see. It's called having they have no bench. And
I don't think they'll be in the top 3 or 4.
They won't be in the top 4. No, number 2. Like who the hell? That's shocking.
That's why this is up here, because I think it's insane.
That's shocking. But who was it? Was it Seattle? No, Seattle was. I think I had Atlanta at 5. Yeah, Atlanta. And then I had Phoenix, Seattle, Vegas, Yeah, I would have. Yeah, Atlanta was 5 because I think that Brittany Griner pickup's huge for them size-wise. They got really big, like they're huge.
Yeah,
if Canada stays healthy, their point guard, because she wasn't healthy last year, and Ryan Howard missed a lot of games last year. If they're healthy, again, all this stuff is predicated on health.
No, I understand.
Injury, because if you tell me if Caitlin Clark got hurt, the season's over. Like it doesn't matter.
You can give me a prediction based on the fact that everybody's healthy. Otherwise, you're all day.
And if it was in Indiana, would be damn near 1-1. Like I wouldn't even have that as a plus 200. That'd be like a plus 105. Because I think that they're so much more talented now than everybody else. And
I think these odds shows me that people do not know basketball and completely underestimate how much Caitlin Clark makes her teammates better. Because not only do they have as much talent as everybody else, they have somebody that makes all that talent better, 2 to 3 times better than anybody else in the league, maybe 5 times better than anyone else in the league. And they have a real coach this year, as opposed to an idiot, which is what I would call the coach last year. And I don't know if you ever saw this scenario, and I talked about this. I played Ultimate Frisbee for 40 years, and I was never a coach, but I was a captain. And I found that of my captain duties, because I was basically a coach too, the easiest thing in the world was to figure out when to call a timeout. Because you can just play, from playing sports your whole life, you can just feel the momentum. Watching sports, you just feel momentum. Christy Sides couldn't even get that right. She couldn't even get calling a timeout right. She couldn't get anything right. That was the simplest thing in the world for her to do. She couldn't get that right. And it was a shame that Caitlin Clark's rookie year was a nightmare because her coach was clueless.
Someone's asking here, what about the Mystics? They have the 3rd, 4th, 6th pick. If they get Malanga, Citroen, and Sivka. I don't care that like the team was trash last year, so they're
rookies.
They just traded their best player off that team, Ariel Atkins.
Right.
Like that's not they're gonna stink. They're gonna be the same 10 or around there. They're all and none of them are game changers. Like they're rookies and none of them are game changers. Like none of them have that ability.
I want to respond to this one comment. If you can respond to.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not about the money. They hate CC because of all the records she broke, and most of the players are still playing. Okay. First of all, when there's this much hate, there's not one reason. Okay.
There's a lot of reasons.
Put that out of your head. I'm going to tell you, like, there's 5 reasons why they hate her. And racial ideology is just a trigger that made these 5 reasons happen. It wasn't because of racial ideology. It was these 5 reasons. They were jealous and envious of her because of how much attention she got and how much money she made. They don't like the fact that she's white in a predominantly black league, that she's straight in a predominant black league, and they don't like the fact that her fans are crazy about her and say she's the GOAT already or is a GOAT thing. Those are the 5 main reasons that it drove people crazy about Caitlin Clark. And I have no problem with them not being jealous and envious of her. What I have problems with is them hating her because they're jealous and envious of her, and then attacking her on the court because they're jealous and envious. That's the problem I have. If you can think of another reason, let me know. But those are the reasons. And I don't know what percentage it is for each human being because I can't get in their head. But that's the reasons people hate her.
Look, there's people. There's a few things to me, and I think one of the things that Caitlin Clark had the benefit of is she played in a state and a school where there's nothing else, and people ignore that. Iowa does not have professional sports of any kind. They have Iowa basketball. And
the only professional sport they have is wrestling, real wrestling, not championship wrestling.
Yeah. They have no pro sports. So if you have someone like a Caitlin Clark, and it's not like Caitlin Clark didn't do like otherworldly things. I mean, she averaged 27 a game as a freshman, 26.6, something like that, 26.8. Like she's averaged these numbers from the day she started. And she didn't just lead in points. She led the country in points and assists her sophomore, junior, and senior years. The fact that she wasn't player of the year all 4 years is a joke for the country. Paige Beckers won it as a freshman the same year, and Clark's numbers were far better than Paige Beckers.
I don't think they're far better, but I think they were pretty good players.
They weren't close. She averaged 27 a game and 8 assists.
Okay, no, I'll pull them up for you.
But I know them. I've done 10,000 videos on them.
Paige Becker shot at a much higher percentage.
She also played at UConn with 10 All-Americans.
Turnovers. I understand,
but that matters. Like you can't. Like I don't want people. It's like the Breanna Stewart argument of how great she is.
But I don't think her numbers. My point was, I don't think her numbers were way greater.
Well, 27 and 8 to 20 and 5 or 4 is not even in the remote.
Of course, she's going to average more points because she's got a lot less talent around her.
But she's the whole team. But Paige Beckers isn't that girl. I think we've seen that by now. Paige Beckers is not that girl.
But she's overrated. So
if she's overrated, then she's not that girl. Caitlin Clark's been that girl. I think
she was better freshman year than she is now.
She probably was a little bit better as a freshman, but she wasn't better than Caitlin Clark. And if she had played at any other school not named UConn, no one would have cared about her. And I just think the perspective of Caitlin Clark played in Iowa. She developed a following that was, it's cult-like. It's cult-like. You know, and she has skills.
People hate her too because it's
it is.
It's part of number 5.
People like. There's this cult-like following of people that love her. So naturally, you're going to have a complete opposite that hate her. She has a LeBron syndrome here. LeBron James, there's no one in the middle on LeBron James. You either despise him or you love him. You're a bronsexual or you think he's a
I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle on LeBron. That's not true.
So you like him?
I'm in the middle. Sometimes I like him. Sometimes I hate him.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm probably unusual. I'm in the middle. I'm in the
middle on a lot of things too, but there's that LeBron largely is. Imagine the stuff that LeBron's had to deal with for 20 years. The commentary, the nastiness, the there's so many things that man's had to deal with, and we can't even possibly imagine, You know, some of that stuff he brought on himself. But she developed this fan base that is cult-like. She's shooting the ball from the parking lot like Steph Curry. She talks. She's swaggy on the floor, which it's interesting because if she was black, I don't think the black players would have as much. It would have. They have no issue with it, but because she's white, they have issue with it.
Of course.
And then there's so when you have that one far side, you have the other side.
What is your ethnicity, by the way?
My father was born in Cuba. My mom is Italian. I was born in Miami Beach. So I'm American, and my background is Cuban and Italian.
White,
yeah,
all mixed in. I'm just curious because Rob said to me, I told him he was on the show, and he goes, "You're the token white guy." I said, I don't know what Rudy is. I said, I just never asked. I don't.
Yeah, my wife is black. My kids are mixed, black and white. So,
right. I don't even know. Like, I don't even pay attention to that kind of stuff. So I didn't even know what you were. So
I've had people make the comments, "Oh, you're the guy that says, oh, I have a black friend, so I'm not racist." I'm like, yeah, ask my wife, I guess, who's black, and my children. But hey, whatever you want. I just think she's developed that cult-like following that you're gonna have the opposite side, and those people are gonna go hard to hate her, just to hate her. I think there are some weird guys out there that really have sexual fantasies about Angel Reese, for example. And they just choose Angel Reese because they have that dream that they could get in bed with her.
Charlie just said,
kind of weird.
Pay attention. I said, I pay attention. I notice people's race and nationality, but I don't give it much thought. Okay, does that make you happy? Jesus Christ, Jesus. I don't put nearly as much emphasis on other people do. I try to ignore it. That's all.
I just think when we compare, like anyone at UConn, anyone who played at UConn, I have a hard time viewing outside of Maya Moore, who I thought was incredible. Brianna Stewart does not do anything for me. Like she's a good player. Okay, I grade WNBA on a curve, just like Ben does.
It's so funny.
It's a curve because if you ask me as a player, if I compare just a player, I think Brianna Stewart stinks. What I've watched, she in 5-on-5, I guess she's okay because you can hide a lot of her problems. But in a 3-on-3 setting, she's getting toasted like every game. And I think people thought she might look like Nafisa Collier. She's not.
I know. The times I saw her play defense in the 5-on-5 WNBA, her defense was excellent. In
5-on-5. And in 3-on-3, she gets blown by.
Well, all I can tell you is her defense looked good
over and over again. So to me, if you're a great defender, you're a great defender no matter what. I can defend no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm playing 1-on-1, 5-on-5, 3-on-3. If I can lock you down, I can lock you down. I don't need help.
She had 7 steals in one game in the finals. So, a lousy defender doesn't do that.
But Caitlin Clark was like 15th in the league in steals, just so you know.
No, I know. Look at it. Caitlin Clark is a better defender than the people say that she is, because she does have good off-the-ball defense, good steals, blocks, good defensive rebounding. That's a part of defense. Defensive rebounding.
Yes, it is.
But that doesn't mean she doesn't have some shortcomings on her defense that she needs to fix. It drives me crazy when she stands in the middle of no man's land like she's playing tennis, and her person's wide open in the 3-point line, and she just sits there and just doing nothing in no man's land.
Prime Brianna Stewart's a top 10 player of all time?
What?
Maybe. Someone said Prime Brianna Stewart's top 10 player of all time. No, not to me. Not to me. But
yeah, I think she's. I hate Brianna.
And if we're going to do that, are we going to start using college championships as a barometer for being a top player of all time? Because if that's the case, then Steph Curry's not.
No, I don't.
Steph Curry's not. Charles Barkley's not. There are so many guys that played college basketball. Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq.
I have a whole long list for I did.
There's a long list of NBA superstars that never won a national championship in college basketball.
There's a long list that never made the Final Four.
Exactly. So if we're going to be using the Final Four and the national championship in women's basketball as the barometer for Caitlin Clark, when she played with no better than a 3-star or a 2-star athlete who wouldn't have started on any one of the top 5 teams besides Iowa, like
I will respond to that stuff. Because Brianna Stewart played with 12 players that made it in the WNBA.
I said that.
With several. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
With several 5-star recruits. Maybe every person on their team were 5 stars. I'd have to look it up. Caitlin Clark. I looked this up. Caitlin Clark. How many 5-star recruits do you think she played with?
None. I already know the answer. It's
0.
none. It's none.
4-star
the
recruits.
Highest rated player is Hannah Stuelke.
No, she played with several 4-star recruits, but only 2 of them started. What's Warner? I think what was her name? Warner.
Stuelke and Stuelke.
No, Stuelke. No, and then
Stuelke is a 4-star.
Warnock. Stuelke and Warnock were the only 4-star recruits that ever started for Iowa. Everybody else was a 4-star recruit who never started, or a 3-star recruit, which means they all were nothing.
Like as good as that girl Cesano or whatever her name was.
She wasn't even a 4-star recruit. She was a 3-star.
She was a no-star. She was a nothing recruit.
Yeah, she wasn't a 4-star recruit.
I went through all of that stuff in a video I did because, like right now, Paige Beckers, she has 10 McDonald's All-Americans on her team. 10. And the other one that's not is the girl that transferred from Princeton, who was all-conference starting point guard at Princeton. And then there's one more who's a national player in a European country. That's who her team is. And Caitlin Clark's second best player was a 6'2" big. And her third best player was Kate Martin, I like Kate Martin. Kate Martin would not make. She wasn't a 4-star recruit either. Kate Martin would not make the bench of UConn or South Carolina or one of those teams. Like, that's how good Caitlin Clark was and how much she elevated an entire college. And I think that's part of why she is revered. You know,
Diana Taurasi played with 10 players. They made it in WNBA. Yeah. Candace Parker played with 8. And then someone else, I think it was Tamika Catchings or another Tennessee player played with 6. Caitlin Clark played with a half. A half a player.
Why is like, let's ask ourselves a true question. And I'm not saying this to dismiss Kate Martin. Is Kate Martin in the WNBA if Caitlin Clark doesn't play at Iowa? No.
That's why I said a half.
Yeah. And Hannah Stuelke might. Maybe
she might make it.
She's 6'2". She's a big at 6'2".
She might be able to fall.
She can't shoot a lick. She's a layup. That's all she can do is make layups.
She's a good athlete. She needs to work on her game.
Yeah.
She ran track and played volleyball in high school.
The rest of them, Gabby Douglas is in grad school. You know,
Monica Sano just couldn't played over in Europe or Turkey or whatever, and then just I'm going to. She probably could make the league when they expand to 16 or 18 teams. It's not that bad. She shot a pretty high percentage. She's got a nice size.
Here. What Caitlin Clark did at Iowa is the greatest single thing I've ever seen in sports. It's the great. Me too. I agree with you.
And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Huh?
Except for the Packers winning 3 championships in a row and winning the Ice Bowl to do it.
Dude, you're not that old.
That's my first thing.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I was born in 59. Nobody knows my age, but
what were you, like 5 when that happened?
8. Well,
do you remember it?
Yeah, I do remember the game.
Wow.
So I started following sports at a young age. I started liking the Green Bay Packers when I was 3, and I remember the 65 championship game when I was like 5 years old. They beat the Browns, and then I remember them beating Dallas and winning the Super Bowl, then beating winning the Ice Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, and then they sucked after that for a long time, but then they got some quarterbacks, and now they're good again. So, but they kind of blew it, though. They only won 1 championship with Brett Favre and only 1 championship with Aaron Rodgers, and they should have won more. They had 2 great Hall of Fame quarterbacks and only won 1 championship each time. They refused to sign free agents. That was the problem. They refused to one thing I read an article when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and I was a sports fanatic and wanted to go to sportscasting, sports writing. And I read this article when I was 10 years old, and he said, great players are underrated. They do so much for a team, both in leadership and drawing attention and making teammates around them better and making, big plays and all sorts of things. Like John Madden used to say, great players make big plays in big games, things of that nature. And great players are actually underrated unless they're the type of player who never makes anyone better on their team, which is unusual for a great player. And I've always remembered that. That's a very important concept. Great players are underrated. You need great players. If you go look in the NBA, it's rare that someone like the Pistons who beat the Lakers that one year, it's rare that just because
that was amazing. That was amazing. That 2004 Pistons team that beat the Lakers. Oh my God.
But you could see that 95% of the time the WNBA was led by a great player or excellent player with 2 very good players. You can look at every team except for 5% of the times throughout the NBA 75 or how many years, 77 now, whatever it is. You can go study that. It was very, very unusual that a great player didn't lead them to a championship.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that, I mean, as a Heat fan, I just, whenever Pat Riley opens his mouth nowadays, I'm like, just shut the hell up, because the fact that you just traded Jimmy Butler for a box of rocks, and I'm very familiar with what happened down here, and I know why it happened. I already knew that the Golden State Warriors would immediately become much better with Jimmy Butler, while they're trying to convince you. Well, they're 5-1 since he got there, and he's playing the way he played down here.
Well, let's put it this way: the Jimmy Butler was with Philadelphia 76ers, and they let him go instead of they kept Tobias Harris, and that's why they didn't win a championship.
They would have won multiple titles with him.
They would have won 2 titles with him, right?
Mm-hmm. They would have won multiple championships.
If like
at least one. I mean, at least one.
The year they lost to Toronto.
Yeah, like Jimmy's not asking to be the number 1 guy. He wants to win. And what they did to him this year was ridiculous. They put him in the corner to play him off the ball. Like, that's not how he plays. He gets everybody else going. But the fact is that Pat Riley embarrassed him publicly, and that he never apologized. No. He never said sorry, and he never talked to Jimmy about it until months later. And
Pat Riley said something he didn't need to say.
But Pat Riley notoriously does that crap, and he insults his stars. But what ended up happening to me is you try to convince people that Andrew Wiggins is some like really good player. No, he's not. He's a mediocre guy. Like Jimmy Butler automatically to me makes
an underachiever.
Who?
Yeah. He's mentally soft.
Oh, yeah, he is. And Jimmy Butler to me is going to be Jimmy Butler is going to be I think they have a really good chance to win the championship now in Golden State. He's going to give so much room to Steph Curry that he hasn't had in a while. And I mean, they need to watch out, but it's
I'll go back.
My point being was that Pat Riley never won with bums. They make it seem like he's such a mastermind.
Yeah, I don't.
His entire roster in LA were Hall of Fame guys, even though I don't think Cooper was one, but just Magic, Bird, Kareem, Worthy, like not Bird, but Magic, Kareem, and Worthy. Then you have Byron Scott adding in there. You have these other guys, these other ancillary parts. And then with the Miami Heat, he wins with Shaq and Wade. Like, he never won with the 04 Detroit Pistons.
He didn't win with the Knicks.
Exactly. So it's like he's supposed to be this guru of coaching. You're only as good as the players you got on your team.
I would say that Popovich may have won the most championships with the least amount of talent among the great coaches.
Come on.
Well,
David Robinson, Tim Duncan at the same time.
I know, but look who Rod Auerbach had, and look who Riley had, and look who Phil Jackson had.
Well, we can't. Well, Phil. I would argue that Phil Jackson's talent level wasn't close to the San Antonio Spurs talent level.
Really?
Jordan and Pippen, and then what else? A bunch of guys.
They had Horace Grant and Dennis Rodman.
Horace Grant's a good player. Rodman in the Hall of Fame is a joke.
Jordan is like worth 3 great players.
Well, I think Dennis Rodman being a Hall of Fame is embarrassing to the Hall of Fame personally, but that's my opinion. I've always said that. I think he's a role player. Like, role players don't belong in the Hall of Fame ever.
Yeah, I don't know why Michael Cooper's in. I'm flabbergasted.
Role players don't belong in the Hall of Fame, and you can sit here and say people can say he's the greatest rebounder of all time. He's a role player.
I want to say that one thing about we'll go back to WNBA for these people who said
I got to get going in a minute, so just let you know. It's almost 3 hours.
You can go whenever you want.
Yeah.
Brittany Griner's, to me, I saw her in college, and I thought she was going to be a dominant player in the WNBA. She's never won the MVP in the WNBA. She just came in second once. I think her career is a little bit of a disappointment. I don't think she's as good as rebounder as she should be. And I guess that's all I have to say about Brittany Griner. I just think it was a little bit of I think she underachieved slightly.
Yeah, her rebound numbers for her size are terrible. I mean, she should be averaging double digits every year in rebounding. Like, that's terrible.
And she has enough skill and smoothness. It's not like she's awkward that she should be a better player, in my opinion.
I think she did get better as she got older, but yeah, her lack of rebounding for her size is crazy.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So Rudy has to go.
Yeah, I gotta go.
It's okay. It was only our live show was only scheduled 6 to 8:30, so we went over time.
Appreciate it.
If anybody wants to donate to this channel, there's super chats and super thanks down below. Check out Rudy at Come On Now the podcast. You get great insight like this, and check out his videos. And I don't know, do you do anything live?
Yeah, I do lives every Tuesday night at 9:00.
Okay, Tuesday nights 9:00 at Come On Now podcast, and that's your. How long does it go for?
As long as I'm going.
Is it
at
Eastern
least
time?
Generally Eastern 9 p.m. Eastern time. Generally, they go for an hour 45 to 2 hours.
Okay, and where do you live?
I live in Pompano Beach, Florida, just outside Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, and do you do live streams when the Fever play?
No, I can't do that. I can't mentally do that. It's too
well, now last year was painful. We would watch the games and we'd all want to just go have a drink.
I tried. The live stream thing during a game is so hard for me because I stopped paying attention. Like I'm looking at the game and it's just I give credit to people that can do it because I just don't have the. I really got to focus on the game, and I'd rather be able to talk about it after the fact. But yeah, it's hard for me to do a live stream watching. I did a baseball game live stream. It's easier because it's a slower game. But Caitlin Clark's gonna be a track meet this year.
Right,
it's gonna be a track meet.
I agree. I think they're gonna. I'm flabbergasted they're not ranked number 1 in the odds, and 4th is just bizarre. Like the Aces lost almost everybody, and just because they have a leader who's not a good leader.
Yeah.
Who's not a good leader. Well, the locker room didn't have a championship thing. Well, what did you do to make him a championship attitude when you've realized that they didn't have a good attitude? You're the leader. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I had one thing to put you on the door here, and you're going to have to go to sleep tonight after I tell you this. I'm talking to this guy, 57 years old. He's a lawyer. And he follows basketball closely and women's basketball a lot. And I don't think it matters what race he is, but he is black, and I'm just wondering his motivation on this. And when I talked about him, it's kind of weird. He thinks Breanna Stewart is the best player in the league. And then he said to me that Caitlin Clark has limitations. She'll never be better than a top 10 player in the league, which means she'd never be higher than 6th, because that's what because otherwise you say top 5. And I said she was already 4th last year. I go, that's what she was voted on. I go, what do you mean the voters were kind of against her, at least by a little bit? All I thought 4 is fair. I go, you're insane. You're going to think she's never going to be higher than top 6 in the league. I said, we're betting because that's the most insane take I've ever heard in my life. And I just want to show you that's what you're up against with Caitlin Clark. Even a guy who supposedly knows basketball is a smart guy is just underestimating Caitlin Clark. And that's going to go on for the next 15 years, everybody. So get used to it. She could win a title with 11 high school freshmen, and they'd find a way to discredit her. Just keep that in mind.
She took
Seriously, they would.
Folks, all I do is go look at
those were really good freshmen. They were tall for freshmen.
Go look at the Final Four teams of the last 20 years in women's basketball. 25 years. The least talented groups were her 2 teams. Like, it's not close. Not close.
Best player since Cheryl Miller. And by the way, you can go watch Cheryl Miller play. Her first 2, her freshman and sophomore year title games are on YouTube, and so is when she they beat Russia in the Goodwill games. Those are the only 3 full games you can see of Cheryl Miller, and you can see she was like 1.5 times better than everybody else in the court. But that's it's a different era. She didn't make her teammates better like Caitlin Clark did, and she was a better defender than Caitlin Clark. But anyways, those are my 2 favorite players of all time. And they were the 2 best players of all time was Cheryl Miller and Caitlin Clark. And she's the most exciting player since Michael Jordan, in my opinion. So that's our show for today. We're going to sign off. Rudy, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying overtime.
My pleasure.
Check this in the mail. And so it's going to be like maybe 5 or 6 people. So like every other week, I'll let you know about next week.
Let me know.
The Pope's already on, and then just let you know you did a good job and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Let me know.
All right. Great.
All right.
See you.
All righty. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, you guys, I'm going to go off the air at 9:00 sharp. If you want to donate to the channel, it's super chats or super thanks down below. I'm going to try to go live for USC UCLA. I believe the game's Saturday. So if you want to join me for that, I'll look it up real quick. If anybody knows when they're playing Saturday, I think, let me look it up on that. I'll go Saturday. I'll go live. I hope you enjoyed the show. I tried to ask good questions. I don't know if I did. I put a lot of thought into it, so I hope I did. Let me just see. Scores. Rob said on Saturday they're playing. Let me just see. Big rematch. 9:00 at night. Ooh, that's when I like to go out. USC at UCLA. I don't know if I'm going to do that. All right. Thank you, Charlie. Wait a minute. Charlie and Boxing Bulldogs, are those two different people? I thought your name was Boxing and Bulldogs. You put Charlie in front. Did you change your name? Or do you just add Charlie? Because I don't remember Charlie being in there. I just remember Boxing and Bulldogs. But she didn't win a championship. Yeah, Caitlin Clark did win a championship. She dragged 3-star recruits to the finals twice. Let's see Brianna Stewart do that or Diana Taurasi do that. It wasn't going to ever happen. No, even Cheryl Miller, and I love Cheryl Miller, could not have dragged those two teams to the finals 2 years in a row. Sorry. I've actually seen her play. I saw her play in the Olympics too. And I've gone back and watched those 3 games. She was not good enough to drag those teams to the championship. But she is my second favorite player of all time. And she's better than them. Anyways, what was the highest number watching tonight? I wasn't paying attention. Do you guys know? It's at 114 right now. But I don't know what the highest number was. Anyways, next Monday, DePope, I always forget his name. He's got such an unusual name. I want to call it weird. Frank DePope. He did a song about Caitlin Clark. He'll be here next week. And 1 or 2 of those people, and maybe someone else. Rob will be here back in 2 weeks. He has to work these 2 Mondays. So 400 was, thank you, Bobby, for the highest number. And so we're going to have a rotating panel, and it's going to be every Monday except for Labor Day and Memorial Day weekend for the rest of the year. And it's 6 to 7. And our live show will be like 6 to 8:30, 6 to 9, something like that. All right. Okay, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later. Rob, I'll see you in the next video, as I like to say, and Rob says peace out, but that's not an original. Ben Daniels in the chat. I'm trying to get hold of Ben Daniels, so I just don't have an email for him, and I can't leave him a note on X because he doesn't follow me. So I think I left a note on one of his videos, and he didn't respond. So I'm trying to get a hold of him and Chicks Dig Scar podcast and Fly Hippie. I'd like them all on the show. So I don't know how to get a hold of Fly Hippie. I left a message for him on Instagram or TikTok, and he didn't respond. I don't think he checks them often enough. So have them contact me. My email is in the top. You go to my top and have them contact me. They're all invited on my show. I'd like to rotate the panel. I think the panel did a good job today, though. I think we had 3 really good guests. All right. DePope's next week. He's already on next week. I got him because Adrian had his email, so I was able to get a hold of him. He's on next week. So you know how to get a hold of Fly Hippie, Ben Daniels podcast, or Chicks Dig Scar podcast? I'm trying to reach them. Tell them they're invited. Okay. All right. We'll see you. Have a nice night, everybody. Thanks a lot.